Oh my goodness. Good morning, good afternoon, whatever it is for you. I hope you're having a fantastic day. My name is Zach Schomler. This is Strong Opinion Sports, episode 663. Welcome in, and joining me is my co-host, Nathan. Nathan, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. We had a full weekend of football Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It does not get much better than this.
I love college football. I think college football at its best is incredible. However, sitting down on the couch Sunday morning watching all the NFL games, I was reminded college is great when it's really good, but there's so many hit or miss games in college football that are like the Texas-Michigan game, for example. I was excited and it was a dud. It was a total blowout. And that was like the only really good game all weekend in college football, where NFL, every week they just hit you with good game. And often it's even games you don't expect. They don't look like they're going to be good at first. You're like, even the Bengals Patriots game was a game I didn't expect to be great. That turned out to be a really fun, interesting matchup. You want to dive into week one?
Yeah, let's get right into week one. Where do you want to start?
Let's start with the game we just watched on Monday night. The 49ers beat the Jets 32-19 in Santa Clara. What's your initial thought about this game? I got to tell you first, I was disappointed. I was hoping for a better, more back and forth matchup, and it was very one-sided in my opinion. We'll talk about why, but what'd you make of the game?
I thought that first, quarter and a half was great. Both defenses looked great. Offenses were making a couple plays, but the defense is coming up big. But yeah, you're right. I think the 49ers flexed the muscle, and then it just wasn't particularly close. I think the problems we saw last year for the Jets as far as trying to stop the run really showed their head, and reared its head this week. So definitely wish for a closer competitive game. But I would like to note that without that Breece Hall fumble, handing it right back to the Niners, maybe the game goes a little bit differently. Maybe it doesn't. I'm still convinced that the Niners win that game. But golly, did they just dominate time of possession.
Yeah, 38 minutes and 40 seconds. They absolutely, the ball, it felt like the 49ers had the ball the entire game. You're waiting, and Aaron Rodgers is like watching on the sideline, having a 3-and-out, and then watching the 49ers go for another 10-minute drive. It was just demoralizing if you're a Jets fan, I imagine. Like, man, we're just not even getting a shot. Just how often they're controlling the football, the 49ers offense. There was an early warning sign, by the way, early on. We saw, I think it was like the first or second drive, Aaron Rodgers got sacked on third down, or there was pressure. I can't remember exactly what happened. There was pressure early, and it was a 4-man rush. And you were like, oh, no. If Aaron doesn't have time to throw and it's a 4-man rush, you got 5 offensive linemen blocking 4 pass rushers. If we can't do that, there's a huge problem in this football game. And I thought the constant theme for the Jets offense was there's flashes of really good stuff. I'll tell you what, one of my notes earlier was, man, I love watching Aaron Rodgers throw the football. He's like, his mechanics, the way the ball comes out, he's incredible. He really is. Like, he's just a treat to watch. But they just could not protect him. And there weren't many weapons other than Garrett Wilson they were throwing the ball to. Breece Hall had a couple drops in the pass game, had the fumble we talked about.
Yeah.
But it was really the lack of protection. Like, I realized, I think faster than the Jets did, you can't hold on to the football. You can't do play action. You can't do 5-step drops. It's got to be Aaron's catching the ball and getting it out quick because he doesn't have time to throw. Did you notice that at all?
Yeah, and they tried to get into that a couple times in a few of the drives, getting it out quick. I think a couple times to Garrett Wilson. They got it out to a tight end. But at the end of the day, that offense did not look polished. And I think that's what we can expect. I'm not trying to move the goalposts here for Aaron Rodgers, but guy hasn't played meaningful football in a while. This offensive line we knew was going to be a work in progress. It's going to take them some time to get going. Mekhi Becton really, really needs to grow up. And yeah, like you said, them getting pressure on Aaron with a 4-man rush. Obviously, you got Nick Bosa coming off the edge. He's gonna demand some double teams. But yeah, the pressure showed, and they just looked like a lesser team all around.
There were highlights for the Jets offense that really stood out. There was a back shoulder, throw early to Garrett Wilson. I was like, oh, that's awesome.
So good. It's unstoppable. Throw it 10 times in a row.
Dude, I thought
keep throwing it.
Dude, after the first 2 drives by the Jets, I'm like, they're going to throw the ball to Garrett Wilson every single time. I thought he was going to end it with like 18 to 20 targets on the day. He had 11.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I'm like, literally, are they ever going to throw the ball to anyone else? And why would they?
Yeah.
There was a slant late in the game. One of the final drives Aaron was in. They threw a slant to Garrett Wilson. Ball's a bit behind him, wasn't quite on target. I really thought, the one highlight that stood out to me that I loved, there was a free play by Aaron Rodgers, and he threw it for a dime touchdown down the middle to Alan Lazard. Like, there are good stuff. There's good things going on in the Jets offense. It's the first time I've watched the Jets offense in a long time and gone, oh, hey, there's some success. It's not terrible, but it's not enough. And in a game against a team like the 49ers that are, I mean, they look like a Super Bowl favorite, easily probably the best team in the NFC. I love the Detroit Lions, but what I saw week one from the 49ers compared to Detroit, it's close. I think the 49ers are better and more talented.
Yeah.
And in a game against a team like the 49ers, you got no margin for error. You cannot allow anything to go wrong. And, a ball was tipped and got picked off. Brees Hall had a fumble. Those things add up quickly. And before you know it, you're 2 scores down, and it's a bad news situation for you if you're the Jets.
Yeah.
I don't know. What did you make of the 49ers? I mean, I thought they really looked pretty incredible, honestly. I was like, wow, this is a statement to me.
They looked sharp. And to me, I was honestly very surprised. You had all the noise with Trent Williams holding out for a while, Ricky Pearsall getting shot, Brandon Ayuk holding out, Christian McCaffrey with the calf. It just seemed like all of these things. You lost Javon Kinlaw. Greenlaw's not back in rotation yet. Just all these things pointed to, man, like it might take them a little bit to get going here to start the season. And they just came out looking so good. I think Kyle Shanahan found a great way to motivate the guys. And I'm not sure how he did it, but they came out looking great. Mason was running so hard. The defense was playing lights out. Fred Warner flying around like a crazy man. He's so much fun to watch. Yeah, like I said, certainly impressed. Arguably the best offensive performance outside of Tampa Bay that we saw this week. But man, they just look sharp. I will say Brock Purdy started to look a little funky there somewhere in the third quarter. He threw a couple of them up for grabs that to me didn't seem typical or characteristic of him. Brock, don't try to do too much. Just get it to the guys.
He had a bad ball down the seam that could have got picked off. He was lucky it was high. He had a ball to George Kittle down the middle that was low and in the dirt. I thought he had a bad stretch in the third quarter. Otherwise, it was nearly flawless. For a moment or two, I was like, is this... He looks a little bit like Drew Brees. I don't want to... actually hate making comparisons like that, but the same of like, he executed his offense the way Drew Brees used to, where you're like, he is just humming and clicking on all cylinders. Every little thing he could control, he did really well. And I hope that when Brock Purdy... When his payday comes, I hope he can recognize, look, part of why you're succeeding is because of the people around you. You have incredible weapons everywhere. It's the system you're in. I mean that with absolute respect, but we're never seeing Brock Purdy do anything outside of the structure of the offense. He's really, I mean, occasionally he'll extend a play here and there, but my point is like he wins because of what he's got around him and the structure he's in. Very similar to a quarterback like Kirk Cousins, actually. And I don't think that's a bad thing. It's just a guy maximizing what he can do. But Brock Purdy on another football team getting paid $100 million is not the same successful quarterback we're seeing here.
No.
I hope when he gets paid and he can recognize, hey, let's take a team-friendly deal so I can have more help around me. That's not a knock. That's not a slight. It's just an honest acknowledgement that you got Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel. Jordan Mason stood out, though. Did I say? I know. I was very close if I didn't actually say that. Jordan Mason, though, 28 carries, 147 yards, and a touchdown run. Had two, actually. One got taken off the board by a Deebo Samuel holding call. As a holding or legal contact, I can't remember. But penalty on Deebo blocking downfield.
It was questionable. It was questionable.
Jordan Mason, to me, I really should have had two touchdown runs. Later in that drive, Deebo ran it into the end zone instead. But what a crazy cool story for him. Jordan Mason, undrafted free agent, been in the 49er system for a while, having kind of a breakout game. And he really left off where Christian McCaffrey did, or he picked up where Christian McCaffrey left off, where you're like, oh yeah, I don't think it's as simple as plug anyone into this offense and you'll do that kind of stuff, put up those kind of numbers. But Jordan Mason made that seem possible tonight.
Yeah. And I hope that the Niners build off of that and say, all right, we don't need Christian McCaffrey to play every drive, but maybe two in a game. Take that load off of him. I was calling for it all last year. I was telling everybody this offseason, this is going to be a tough year for McCaffrey health-wise. We've seen that with a calf and an Achilles. I know that there's maybe some gamesmanship as far as holding him out until the last minute, but please keep him healthy. You need him for the playoff stretch. You do not need him to get to the playoffs in the regular season. So, hopefully Jordan Mason can build on what he has. He ran hard. He ran physical. And yeah, hopefully the Niners lean on him and Kyle Shanahan leans on him. And Kyle Shanahan was cooking. After that third drive, he said, I found what I like. And he just started ripping them. Dudes were wide open. Oh, it was just a masterclass. Something Stefanski could never do.
Oh, you hate Kevin Stefanski. It's so funny.
He'll
I
catch
want
a
to say,
stray every show.
man, I I actually think the Christian McCaffrey injury and then therefore this game without him could end up being a blessing in disguise because you now realize, hey, we got Jordan Mason. I'm sure they knew what he could do before, but they didn't realize probably quite what he could do and how dependable he could be. You got the Vikings, the Rams, the Patriots, and Cardinals coming up. Particularly, we saw the Rams without Aaron Donald in the middle of that defense struggle to stop a run, especially in a physical game like the Lions game on Sunday Night Football, and then that Cardinals game coming up in a couple weeks. I'm telling you, the Arizona Cardinals couldn't stop the run if like their lives depended on it. I think you're right. Let's take our time with Christian McCaffrey. We've learned we got another guy who can play. Let's not be in a hurry to get him back. What you want is Christian McCaffrey healthy in January, and whatever it takes to make that happen. Monitor his plays, keep a low snap count, keep him on I guess a pitch count is the right word, like a baseball phrase.
Yeah.
Protect him. It's okay. And really, I think this gives you reassurance. Yeah, we can do that and still win a lot of football games. Beat a really good Jets defense. It was the third best defense in football last year, and I thought upgraded this offseason. So there's bright, blue skies ahead for the 49ers offense, and you just learned you got another weapon, an unexpected one in the Kyle Shanahan offense.
I don't want to see him until week 6. That's all.
Mike Williams didn't have a target tonight for the New York Jets. I know it's out of left field, but what'd you make of Mike Williams not having a target against the 49ers tonight?
Yeah, I just don't think he was on the field very much. And with the way that game script went, there wasn't enough plays to really even get what limited opportunities he had out there. He's coming off the ACL injury. He's probably still got some healing up to do, but I just chalk that up to the game plan went out the window. Whatever plan you had to try to, get his feet wet went out the window. Hopefully we see more next week, but I would be shocked, if it's not Alan Lazard, Garrett Wilson, and Mike Williams. Again, I just think it was a pitch count situation.
Yeah. Anything else to add, man? I look around the NFC and I go, hey, it's clearly Detroit and the 49ers to me look like the two best teams in the NFC. And I still would give the edge to the 49ers. Philadelphia is interesting. I think Brock Purdy's a better quarterback. I think Jared Goff's a better quarterback than what Philadelphia's got as well. Those are the top three teams in the NFC, but I think the 49ers stand alone at the top after 1 week. Do you agree with that sentence?
I'd say between them and Philly. Actually, yeah, and the Lions. Yeah, they might stand a little bit taller, but in my opinion, the offense that the Eagles are about to bring this year is ridiculous. Despite their defense, I think having a little bit of a rough start and maybe not looking the best in week 1 there against the Packers, Philly might be just as good. And I was saying that they might have some sort of regression, some coaching changes. I know Jalen Hurts didn't look spectacular, but man, I might give the nod to the Eagles right now.
Who do you trust more, Brock Purdy or Jalen Hurts in a big game?
Jalen Hurts, because he'll do it with his legs.
Really? I'd go the other way. I think Brock Purdy's shown it in big moments before. Hurts. They both have lost the Super Bowl, so maybe what I mean? We're splitting hairs here.
They both walked away, having done their job on offense and just watched Patrick Mahomes go down and in the game. So, I mean, yeah, both guys. Jalen Hurts did seem like things looked a little bit difficult for him, whether that's health-wise or whether that's him just doing a lot of processing with this new offense that Kellen Moore has. But I trust that having Saquon Barkley in his back pocket now, still got A.J. Brown, still got Devontae Smith. They are right up there with the Niners.
I don't mean to linger on this, but if you compare the week 1 performance of Brock Purdy and Jalen Hurts, Brock Purdy looked really sharp. He had maybe a bad ball in the third quarter, but Jalen Hurts had 2 ugly interceptions over the middle late. I just think Brock Purdy showed he's a little more sharp, a little more disciplined, runs his offense in a much more clean fashion than Jalen Hurts. I think the edge goes to Brock Purdy over Jalen Hurts, but it is close and interesting.
Third year in Shanahan's offense, who does a great job of scheming things up versus, again, you're transitioning to an entirely new offense. You're probably thinking a little bit harder than you normally do. If you ask me who I was going to pay the big bucks to, I'd probably still choose Jalen Hurts.
This episode is brought to you by Rocket Money. How do you keep track of all your subscriptions? Can you tell me for sure how many you have and who is taking money from you each month? Have you ever had trouble canceling a subscription or discovered you're being charged for something you didn't think you should be charged for? Well, Rocket Money can help you. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps to lower your bills. I can see all of my subscriptions in one place, and if I see something I don't want, I can cancel it with a few taps. I never have to get on the phone with customer service. Plus, they'll even try to get you a refund for the last couple months of wasted money and negotiate to lower your bills for you by up to 20%. All you got to do is take a picture of your bill, and Rocket Money takes care of the rest. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has helped save its members an average of $720 a year, with over $500 million in canceled subscriptions. Stop wasting money on things you don't use and cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/SOS. That's rocketmoney.com/SOS. rocketmoney.com/SOS. On Sunday Night Football, the Detroit Lions beat the Rams in Detroit 26-20 in overtime. What'd you make of that game?
What I saw at the start of the game, to me, neither team looked incredibly sharp. I think the offensive line play, especially for the Rams, really, really struggled. Obviously, they've been riddled with injuries, including getting injured in that game. And then you see Puka go down, I believe, in the first half. Just really, really tough scene for them. Overall, though, I thought it ended up kind of being fun to watch. Great to see the highlights of. It came down to the wire. Unfortunately, the Rams didn't cover, which I really needed them to do. But yeah, I think both teams were just legitimately finding their footing. Both of them don't really play a ton of starters in the preseason. I think maybe the Lions definitely more than the Rams do. And that's kind of why they were able to eke it out. I think they were just more prepared. They didn't even have to lean on Amon-Ra St. Brown to get this done. Jamison Williams finally had his breakout game. That's scary for teams to see. And so, yeah, tell me how the fourth quarter went.
Fourth quarter, I think really what's more interesting is overtime, because it was very clear in the fourth quarter, in overtime, when Detroit got the ball, they're like, hey, we are going to out physical you and run the ball right at the gut of this Rams defense. They ran the ball repeatedly with David Montgomery right up the middle. You know, if you look at their drive, it was Khalif Raymond on the left end, like an end around. David Montgomery, short pass to Jahmyr Gibbs left tackle. David Montgomery touchdown, like bang, 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 bang.
Wow.
Just running power football. I think, they threw the ball one time in the entire overtime drive. It was 8 plays, 70 yards, and 7 runs. Just power football right up the gut of that defense. I want to say this about the Rams. Alaric Jackson is suspended for 2 games. Their normal starting left tackle. Joe Noteboom, who's been a left tackle before, he's kind of their utility player in the offensive line in the Rams system. He got hurt as well during the game. So you saw Matthew Stafford with a third string left tackle, trying to block Aiden Hutchinson. And Aiden Hutchinson blew up that game. It was really difficult for them to get anything going. I mean, I thought actually, given how limited they were on the offensive line, especially at left tackle, I thought the Rams did incredible scoring points and staying in that football game. Matthew Stafford had a really bad interception in the end zone that was painful to watch. It was like, oh, that's just undisciplined football and really bad. Yeah, and people say he's in his 16th year, but that's the thing Matthew Stafford does from time to time. I hate to say that, but that is true. And then I thought it was a really bad day for Rams fans in that your left tackle got hurt. Puka Nacua is now on the injured reserve. I'd say it was a tough loss. I think a respectable one. It's not like doomsday for the Rams, but they are kind of dealing with some adversity right now with injuries and players being out.
Yeah.
And then Jamison Williams really stood out to me. I think, the Lions were hoping he was going to have a breakout year last year. That didn't quite happen, but we saw him have 5 catches for 121 yards and a touchdown. He had a long catch of 52 yards. Like, he was just making play after play. He really showed, hey, Amon-Ra St. Brown isn't the only target in this Lions offense. Having Jamison Williams become the weapon that I thought we all were hoping he would be when he came out of Alabama, dealing with an injury, had some time, was suspended last year. This was his breakout game, and it was really encouraging and exciting if you're someone who wants to see the Lions do well. I don't know anyone who hates the Lions. It's a very weird, organization that they win, they're okay, but because they were so bad for so long, they're kind of like the little engine that no one's really rooting against them, even if you have a favorite team you are rooting for.
Yeah, there's certainly a big engine now. And again, like I keep revisiting last year, but they're a couple plays away from being in the Super Bowl. So this team's no joke. It appears that they've gotten better. They found that way to unlock Jamison Williams over the top. Again, I know Amon-Ra St. Brown didn't have a spectacular game, but if you got Jamison Williams taking the top off like that, it's going to be open for St. Brown. It's going to be open for Laporta. Things are going to open up for Montgomery and for Gibbs. And man, again, just what a 1-2 punch that they have at running back with Gibbs and Montgomery. Gibbs maybe leaning a little bit heavier on that passing side, but two guys that can just tote the rock. It was impressive to see.
It's worth saying Jahmyr Gibbs ran the ball so well between the tackles. I thought he was much more disciplined in this game than we ever saw him last year as a rookie, following his lineman through the hole, hitting the ball, hitting the hole between the tackles, and not trying to bounce it outside, not trying to make every run into a massive gain, not trying to make every run into a 60-yard touchdown, but really just following his blockers, getting his head down. Sometimes that's what you got to do, is put your shoulders down and initiate contact. And he did that. He ran a lot tougher than I think he ever did once last year. It was impressive. And I thought it was a step forward where clearly he watched some film and did some stuff in the offseason to get better.
Yeah.
The Lions look really good, man. It's especially if they can have Jamison Williams be a home run threat as well. Like, They finally have a really, it's David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs in the backfield. Jahmyr Gibbs is a home run threat, kind of yes, he can run between the tackles, but he's really dangerous on the outside and in the passing game. And then having Sam Laporta at tight end, Jamison Williams as your home run threat, Amon-Ra St. Brown, your reliable third down target. I mean, man, they got weapons everywhere, and it's the most dangerous I think I've ever seen this Lions offense look. Where you're like, especially, I'm telling you, that fourth quarter, and especially in overtime, they realized, hey, we just got to run the football. Like that's what we do. Power football right at the heart of this defense. And it felt like a statement, and it felt like it was the most Dan Campbell thing I've ever seen, right? It's like him flexing his muscles and showing what they can do and how they want to play football. It was really cool to see the way that overtime wrapped up for them. I felt bad for the Rams. They didn't get the ball back. And I saw some people on Twitter saying, well, the Rams didn't even get the ball. It's like, well, they had 4 quarters to win that game. They couldn't get it done. I don't want to have a debate about the overtime rules. It makes sense in the postseason. But if you had 4 quarters to win the game and you didn't, you don't deserve to get the ball back after the other team scores a touchdown on offense first in overtime, in my opinion.
Yeah, and let's talk about how promising that is for the Rams, right? You're down and out against a team that will likely make a deep playoff run. Your O-line's in shambles, hard to get the run game going with Kyron. But Cooper Kupp is back healthy. He looked fantastic last night. Stafford and him always have that connection. So if I'm coming out of that as the Rams, I'm like, if we can just get this much healthier on the offensive line, we're going to be really, really good this year. That defense, I think, will come together. I don't think they're going to fix stopping the run this year, so watch out for that. But I think they'll certainly be better in passing situations and grow as the season goes on.
Cooper Kupp, 14 catches, 110 yards, and a touchdown. That's the most noteworthy performance I've seen from him in a while. That felt like a statement as well. I think you're right. I like your positive spin on it to say, look, we're down Puka Nacua, we're down to our third string left tackle, and we still took a really good Lions team to overtime. I definitely do not think it's doomsday at all if you're a Rams fan. I'm curious. I want to look at their next couple games. I'm trying to remember who they play coming up. It's going to be a tough stretch. They play the Cardinals next week. That's really good. They can run the football a lot down the gut. Then they play the 49ers, the Bears, and the Packers. I don't know how they're going to win that 49ers game. They are going to have Alaric Jackson back for that game. But I see Arizona. I see Chicago, who looked really bad week 1. And I see the Packers, who do not appear to have a quarterback. Then they play the Raiders after that. They probably start, 3-2 and win a couple games down the stretch here. I still feel really good about the Rams. It's a tough loss week 1, but it was a marginal loss to a really, really good football team.
Yeah, and now if I had to look back on that prediction that I made, like I'm so high on them. They might just have a tougher start to the season, given that O-line has to get healthy.
Yeah, I think their only game I'm nervous about, though, coming up, 49ers is tough. Arizona is not an easy victory, but it's still a game you can win, especially running the football. Bears, Packers, Raiders, I don't know, man. I think we're still in good shape if you're a Rams fan.
Yeah, I think so, too. Then you got the bye, Las Vegas, Minnesota, Seattle, all winnable games.
This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Football season is here, and that means it's time to go to football games. The Game Time app makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the start of any sporting event. They've got killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. And here's what the Game Time app does for you. You can save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concert, comedy, theater, and more. They have flash deals where you can save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or event. There are zone deals where you can save even more when you choose a section and let Game Time choose the seats for you. They have all-in pricing. Toggling this feature shows the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. There are seat views where you can get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. And Game Time has a lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Plus, Game Time has ticket coverage. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem with the code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. We talked about Arizona. Let's talk about them now. The Buffalo Bills beat Arizona in Buffalo 34-28. I got to tell you, I was actually, look, I know they lost, and I think the season in a nutshell for Arizona is going to be that they're going to challenge people even if they don't win games. But I was actually impressed with Arizona. They challenged Buffalo. They had a lead early in that football game. I still stand by, like, Arizona's front seven is a disaster. They cannot stop the run to save their lives. But I walked away actually like, okay, hey, Arizona's going to fight. And they look interesting and not as bad as I would have thought. What'd you make of that Bills-Cardinals game?
This game was so exciting for me to watch, but what concerned me more than anything is that Josh Allen had to put the cape on and be Superman just to win that game. And we don't know how good Arizona is going to be. It's very, very hard to tell, right? You see week one, the guys that the Lions and the Niners who come back and they were good, you can judge that pretty easy, but there was a lot of question marks around this team. And I think that Kyler scrambled around and did his thing. He missed a few open throws. I think that as he starts to get back into football, only playing a few games at the end of last season, that'll get cleaned up. But man, the Bills again needed Josh Allen to be a superhero, and he was. 18 of 23, 200 plus yards, 2 touchdowns passing. I think he had 2 on the ground. Like, that's amazing. But the problem is, if he doesn't play at that superstar level, they probably don't win that game. And that is scary to have to ask your quarterback to do that week in and week out, taking those big physical hits, diving into the end zone. To me, it doesn't feel sustainable, but overall, really exciting, really fun game to watch. Michael Wilson, my guy, came in with that touchdown. I was super duper excited for him. That's what I got.
I think with Buffalo, what you have to acknowledge, like you said, Josh Allen had to be a superstar and a superhero. 4 touchdowns, 2 rushing, 2 passing, put the team on his back to beat a team like Arizona, which I think it says a lot about the team around Josh Allen. Here's the problem. Coming up, you play Miami next, then the Jaguars, the Ravens, at Houston, then at the Jets. Those are 5 potential playoff teams back to back to back to back, and you struggle to beat Arizona. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I have nothing against Buffalo, but if Arizona's not a great team, then that's a really unconvincing victory. I know football doesn't quite work that way, but again, like you said, to have to play Superman in this game is really concerning when you look ahead when they've got much tougher opponents down the stretch and the next 5 games.
And to add to that, those teams that you mentioned next on the schedule, they play some serious offense. If you're letting, or not Carolina, I'm sorry, if you're letting the Cardinals score 28 on you, what's Miami going to do to you? What are the Ravens going to do to you? You know what I mean? So
Houston, Aaron Rodgers, Trevor Lawrence,
the Jaguars, and we'll get to them later. But wow, I came away feeling about how I should with the Cardinals. Again, knowing that they are going to challenge teams, they're going to be solid offensively. I think they're only going to get better as the year goes on, but that defense is just going to be tough. And then, we just knew that the Bills were going to be Josh Allen dependent and struggle. I'd like to think that the way he spread the ball around is very positive. I think he had like 7 or 8 guys who had catches. That's really positive, but I'd like to see them, establish a number 1 wide receiver so that they can build some rapport, build some momentum off of, and kind of run the offense through that guy.
Yeah, 9 people had catches and 10 people had
9?
targets in Buffalo this weekend.
Love that. Love that. I need a few more to Dalton Kincaid if you could. That'd be great for the fantasy team. But then also, again, shout out to Joe Brady. James Cook, 19 carries, 71 yards. I know it wasn't amazing efficiency, but again, you've got to let these running backs go. You have to stay true to the run game to open things up on the other side. If you can't stay true to the run game, you're going to have a tough time doing everything else in the NFL.
One thing that stands out about Josh Allen, he was 18 for 23 passing. 5 incompletions on the day. That's a really efficient day. Another thing I like, by the way, James Cook was the leading rusher in Buffalo, not Josh Allen. So they were committed to running the football. Had a couple of really nice
You hear
runs.
that, Lamar?
Across the way, you look at Arizona, Kyler Murray was a leading rusher in Arizona. And you're like, oh, man, that's not all bad. I mean, he's a great rusher. I love how he can run the football, but it is still, anytime your quarterback is your leading rusher, it makes me look kind of sideways at you and I've asked different questions. Here's one thing I want to get your take on. Keon Coleman had 4 catches for 51 yards on 5 targets. On the flip side, the other rookie receiver, Marvin Harrison Jr., 1 catch for 4 yards on 3 targets. And the play that really stands out to me, there's a clip, I don't know if you've seen it, Marvin Harrison Jr. running wide open down the right sideline and doesn't get seen, doesn't get the football, should have been a touchdown. Uh, what do you make of the 2 rookie receivers, Keon Coleman and Marvin Harrison Jr. from this football game?
Yeah, I'll start with Keon Coleman. I think we saw a good debut from him. It was nothing special, nothing flashy, but showed his ability to bring footballs down. I think that on the flip side with Marvin Harrison Jr., I think he just fell victim to Kyler Murray taking what was available. If you look at any of the receivers, I don't think anybody had like over 50 yards, but a couple guys had 4 or 5 catches. So at the end of the day, Greg Dortch, 6 for 47, James Conner, 3 for 33, screen game, Trey McBride, 5 catches for only 30 yards. It's Kyler Murray just taking what's in front of him. And I don't know what it is that's going to get him to trust Marvin Harrison Jr. downfield, trust Greg Dortch if he's screaming downfield, or trust Michael Wilson a little bit more downfield. Whatever that is, something's just missing. So
Yeah.
I think I wouldn't say I'm particularly worried for either one, but something has to develop and change really quickly for Kyler. And Keon, whatever it is on that Bills offense, needs to, I don't know if it's find a better groove or what it is, but it's clear that they don't feel like he's a Stephon Diggs type guy. You know
Well,
what I'm saying?
yeah, I think he doesn't have the route running ability yet. He had a really nice catch down the right sideline where he used his body, went and got the football. I think he's still learning how to get open in the NFL and become a better technical route runner, but they like what he's got. With Marvin Harrison Jr., that's your number 4 overall pick, and you gave him 3 targets. That's a weird thing to me, right? I thought that
Yeah.
like Brian Thomas Jr. in Jacksonville had a nice touchdown, got more targets. Marvin Harrison Jr. quietly had like the most boring, like least noteworthy rookie debut of any of the rookies first round picks. It felt like I was like, hey,
Yeah.
why'd you draft him if you're not going to involve him in the offense? It was very weird to me. Like, what's the point here? What's going
Yeah.
on? Maybe he's young, maybe he's not developed. I don't know what's going on there, but it felt weird to me they didn't target Marvin Harrison Jr. more in this football game.
Yeah, it's something where maybe we have to look at the all 22 and see maybe they were shading a safety, really trying to take him away. But at the same time, a great offensive coordinator is going to say, okay, if this is what they're doing, I need to move Marvin Harrison around in my offense, get him in the slot, get him outside, get him playing backside X, get him playing the front side, and find a way to get him a matchup to get him the ball. That's the most frustrating thing is when, like you said, you 4th round pick and you can't find a way to get him the football. Even if it's just a quick screen, run one of those, let him get some yak, let him start to feel himself a little bit. I don't know.
I want to give some respect to Arizona. Cardinals fans think I hate their football team. It's so funny. I don't. I want to be very clear. I don't. I've tried to be honest about Arizona. I don't think they're a Super Bowl contender. I don't think they're a playoff team. The nicest thing I can say about Arizona, they led Buffalo by a touchdown at halftime. And to me, again, the nicest thing about Arizona you can say walking away from this game is this isn't an easy team to beat. It's not the Carolina Panthers where you look at them and you go, that's a victory in the schedule. You look at Arizona and go, we'll probably beat them, but that's going to be a tough one. They got a good quarterback who can make plays. They're going to challenge us, and I just think they're not an easy out. And that's, again, the nicest thing I can say about Arizona after week 1.
I can tell you the problem right here. And I didn't have a chance to watch a ton of the Arizona game. Guess who the offensive coordinator is for the Arizona Cardinals?
Enlighten me.
It is Petzig, Drew Petzig. And guess where he comes from?
Where?
Cleveland.
Dude, you always find a
That's
way.
all I'm gonna say.
Oh, get it. Come on. Let's talk about an offensive coordinator we love to talk about. Actually, you'll laugh where I'm going with this. The Steelers beat Atlanta in Atlanta 18-10. It was a Arthur Smith. Man, what a Arthur Smith game that was in Pittsburgh. 6 field goals on offense for the Steelers. That's how they win. Justin Fields was our starting quarterback. Russell Wilson was on the bench in shoulder pads, inactive. I do got to say about Russell Wilson not playing, you wonder if that was them finding a creative way to bench him. Just like we're going to go with Justin Fields, think he gives us the best opportunity to win, and we're going to say it's an injury. Was it like one of those injury benchings where you say the guy's hurt, but they're really just saving face? It was weird to see Russ in shoulder pads. It made me ask lots of questions. But I want to say this before we get into the game. It's shameful that in the home opener for the Atlanta Falcons, after giving Kirk Cousins $180 million, a new coaching staff, you make all these moves, you bring in all these people, there's all this hype, you lose to a backup quarterback at home. And in a game where your quarterback is responsible for 3 turnovers and you lose to the other team who scored 6 field goals, like they didn't score a touchdown on the day, and you can't win that game. It was I think, really, really shameful, horrible day in Atlanta. What do you make of the Steelers beating Atlanta in Atlanta?
I think we saw what we knew we were going to see from Pittsburgh, a lights out defense. They're the highest paid in the league, and they should be the best in the league if they're the highest paid in the league. And again, Mike Tomlin's making that happen. They're physical. Yeah. They're vicious at the point of the attack. They're all ball hawks. I don't know how they can all be around the ball so much, but that's what we saw. I think what we saw from Atlanta was just the fact that there was more turnover. And I think we kind of overlooked that because of all this hype with Kirk Cousins and these former first-round picks as weapons and Raheem Morris. And they brought in Matthew Judon. And who else did they bring in? I think they brought in another safety. But the bottom line was that Kirk Cousins hasn't played football in a long time. And he's coming off an Achilles injury, and he didn't look comfortable. It didn't look like he was throwing with power. He's in a little bit of a new offense. He's in a new setting, a new stadium. I think that there was just so much more that went into this game for the Atlanta Falcons, and you had the Steelers who've been disrespected all offseason. I know for a fact Tomlin was in there chatting these dudes up, telling them how much everyone thinks they're going to be garbage this year and all that. So they came out with more fire, I think, and Atlanta just did not look ready to me. And again, Kirk didn't even play in the preseason.
Yeah.
So it was a case of a team coming out mean and nasty, and you had an offense that really just wasn't ready because the defense played okay. And granted, horrible offense from the Steelers, let's be very clear. But there was an opportunity for the Falcons to win that game, and it just wasn't good enough. It just wasn't sharp enough.
I actually found myself really disappointed with the Falcons defense. They didn't get a single turnover on the day. You're playing a backup quarterback. You're playing frankly, like an abysmal Steelers offense. Look, the Steelers defense is incredible. They find ways to win with their defense. They've done it for years. They did it again here. Look, I also acknowledge if it's your first game back from an injury, you didn't play much last year, you didn't play in the preseason, you're in a new offense. Like the Steelers defense is a really, really difficult defense to start your season
mean
against.
And nasty.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe I overlooked that going into this game, but I do got to say, like, where were the turnovers? Where was the forced fumbles? What was going on? I thought Atlanta's defense, again, they held them to 6 field goals. You love that. That's great. I thought there might be a little more. I thought there might be more, turnovers or something. I just didn't get enough, in my opinion, from this Atlanta defense. Given you're playing a backup quarterback, given it's the Arthur Smith offense. Again, let's say this out loud. Arthur Smith is the old coach. So Atlanta lost to their old coach, and they lost to a quarterback who's from Georgia, who played briefly at Georgia. Not that that matters, but Justin Fields, winning a game in his, home state against a team he probably grew up rooting for as a child. It's got to be cool for him. But I think losing to Arthur Smith is a weird kind of pain if you're a Falcons fan. You're like, we lost to him. Even to lose to week 1, it's got to be that freaking guy.
And
that's painful.
And not just losing to Arthur Smith, but losing and arguably putting up a worse offensive performance is the worst part.
Somehow they looked worse than when Arthur Smith was there.
Yeah.
Was that Desmond Ridder or Kirk Cousins? I don't know.
Yeah. I think that we really did overlook how much turnover happened in Atlanta this offseason. Obviously, a brand new head coach, a new defensive play caller, Raheem Morris, a brand new offensive side of the football with a quarterback who's, to me, not looking 100% healthy.
Yeah.
It was already going to be tough. It was already going to be a slow start, and then it just gets magnified by the Steelers defense. All of a sudden, you're in situations where you need to pass the football, and now you got TJ Watt running at you. That's just not where you want to be as a defense. I'm
So
sorry, as an offense.
yeah, the Falcons really struggled to protect Kirk Cousins. He was under pressure all day long. TJ Watt had a forced fumble. He should have had more than one. He had two that got called back by penalties. I felt like as much as the stat line for TJ Watt was incredible, it could have been much better. Like he really was a one-man wrecking crew, destroying that offense for Atlanta. Um, I want to talk about Justin Fields though, because he was 17 for 23 passing, 156 yards. He ran 14 times for 57 yards. I thought he did okay, but the thing that stands out about Justin Fields is that he really, really struggled under center. It's very clear when he's not in the shotgun, he's under center, he got his hands on the butt of the center. He's really a different quarterback. He struggles to literally get the snap. He had a fumble. He's just not the same. They tried to do a quarterback sneak on 4th and inches, and he fumbled the snap. Like he's just not a guy you want to see under center. He's better and more comfortable in the shotgun, which I'm not surprised by, given he played pretty much all of high school that way. He played at Ohio State mostly in the shotgun. Like he's a guy who wants to be in the shotgun, but it's an alarming hole in his game that he can't get under center as a quarterback. It's just a true fact about Justin Fields. Under center, he's a far worse quarterback.
Yeah. I don't think I noticed that as much, you being the quarterback guy, but there is one thing that people often don't realize is how difficult it is to be under center and have to turn your back to the entire defense when you're making your drop, whether you're doing a play action or whether you just have to take that extra second to make sure that you've secured the football. A lot of college offenses, they run things out of shotgun, right? It's the West Coast spread offense that kind of has taken over college. But in the NFL, you have to get under center. And there's a lot of guys who just aren't comfortable with losing sight of the defense that's in front of them, because you turn around and you could see a completely different picture. And you're right. I think that can cause quarterbacks to struggle. And someone like Justin Fields, who played at Ohio State, typically more, in the shotgun, is going to be, it still looks tough for him, and this is what, year 4 or 5 in the league now. It still looks tough.
If you look up the stat line, you'll see Drew Dalman has a fumble for the Atlanta Falcons. It's very misleading. I feel bad for him. So Kirk had 2 interceptions, but he also had a procedural error on him. They're in the silent count, meaning that when he gives a signal to the right guard is looking back, the right guard taps the center, who then never looks back at Kirk. And once he gets tapped by the right guard, he's going to snap the ball. Well, Kirk had a guy in motion too. He put the motion guy in motion too late, and after he gave the signal to the right guard. So the center snaps the ball right into the motion man. And that's on Kirk for procedurally doing things wrong. You got to send the guy in motion first, then give the signal to the right guard. That's a quarterback who just hasn't played a lot of snaps in this offense. You could tell it was just an error of procedure. But if you're Michael Penix Jr. on the sideline watching, you're like, oh, that's an avoidable mistake right there. Like I could maybe run that offense better than Kirk Cousins. I really wonder, if Kirk plays this way week to week, how long it is until we see Michael Penix Jr. I know they gave him 180 million. I know all this stuff, but he looked flat out bad at times. So a really bad interception on the left sideline. They couldn't protect him. He's making procedural errors. I don't want to come down too hard on Kirk. I hear that, you want to give him benefit of the doubt given the changes made in Atlanta, but he was simply not good enough. Just did not play a good football game at all. And when you gave a guy $180 million, you can't have 3 turnovers week 1 the way he did, and especially not the kind of turnovers that he had.
Yeah, if you pay 180 million, you want to see 180 million dollars worth of offense, and they just did not put that together. I'd like to see things change by next week. And again, they've got an easy schedule. It's smoother sailing ahead. That might be the best defense they see all year.
Yeah, that might be their toughest game all year.
So I'm confident that things will turn around. How quickly, I just don't know. Because one of the things that Kirk does is he's a veteran, right? He'll step up in the pocket. He'll move himself around in the pocket before inevitably just dumping and taking the sack. But when you don't feel like you have that mobility and you don't feel like you can push off that right leg, whether it's to drive the football into a hole or to just step up in the pocket in general, I got to imagine that's a really tough transition for Kirk right now.
This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, and Prize Picks is America's #1 fantasy sports app. Use Prize Picks while you watch NFL games this fall because making picks makes watching games more engaging, and you could turn something like $5 into $50. Prize Picks offers quick and easy deposits. You can even use Apple Pay, so put your skills to the test in daily fantasy. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. That is prizepicks.com/CLNS using code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy made easy. Let's talk about a game I know you were watching as you were texting about it on Sunday. The Chicago Bears beat the Tennessee Titans 24-17 in
Good
Chicago. They did not win because of their #1 overall pick, rookie quarterback Caleb Williams. That is for sure. Chicago had 2 defensive touchdowns. They were down 17-3 at halftime. I even told you at halftime, like, look, Matt Eberflus has 2 quarters to impress me and make me want to keep him as a head coach of the Chicago Bears because the quarterback looks awful, the defense looks awful, the special teams looked awful. At halftime, it was a disaster for Chicago. They found a way to get it done. The defense made adjustments. Special teams made a play or two. It actually was a shocking turnaround the way they came back and won that football game. What'd you make of the Bears beating Tennessee 24-17?
Some seriously bad offense is what I made of that whole situation. I know that a lot of you guys, I shouldn't say a lot of you guys, there were some people that were saying that our Will Levis take was bad and this, that, and the other. But the mistakes I saw from Will Levis were atrocious. I think that was a problem, number one. If you've got a 17-0 lead at halftime, your job is to just keep the lead and don't mess it up. And he found ways to mess it up. Yeah, like we were talking about, I wanted to fire Matt Eberflus immediately. I also wanted to fire Shane Waldron. You brought in DeAndre Swift. You still have Khalil Herbert. Where was the run game at? At no point, like even if you're only down 17 in the second quarter, you can still run the football. It's not like this game is out of reach and that you're going to burn the clock if you run the football. At no point did they help Caleb Williams by doing that. The one thing I felt positive about was, I think what we mentioned, it's going to be hard to tell what this Titans offense was going to be. And so on script, it looked okay. Callahan put a good script together for this first part of the game. And the thought was, okay, let's see if Eberflus can make some adjustments defensively in the second half and kind of take away whatever it is that the Titans were trying to do. We certainly saw that. Obviously, the Titans didn't score in the second half. Some great defensive and special teams plays led the way for the Bears. But I am not impressed with the offense as a whole. And I think it starts with the run game, and then we can talk about Caleb as well.
I want to first talk about Tennessee, actually. Brian Callahan is the new head coach. He was last year the Bengals offensive coordinator. I walked away from week 1 saying, hey, Brian Callahan's a good coach. I thought the impact he left in Cincinnati was very clear. Like, Cincinnati did not look very good on offense. They missed him in Cincinnati. And then he was dialing up some really good play calls. He did some really good stuff and had good play design. Sometimes you can do the right thing as a coach and have a great play called and a great design, and then your quarterback just doesn't execute. And when your quarterback has 3 turnovers, 2 interceptions, and a fumble, there's a great quote from Brian Callahan after the game saying, we might have been better off punting on first down, literally, because our offense gave this game away.
He did not mince words there. It's
true. It's like, man, my quarterback's got to be better. You cannot execute the way Will Levis did. He did some good stuff early. It wasn't all garbage. I thought in the first half he did some okay things. The second half got ugly for Will Levis. And
really
to me, it's very clear they got the right head coach. I don't want to bail on Will Levis yet. Let's see how the year goes. If they're terrible and Will Levis plays all year, you just draft a quarterback next year. You're fine. And maybe, let's have an open mind here, maybe Will Levis looks at the film and sees some very clear and obvious lessons and make changes. Some people learn by doing, and maybe he's got to make mistakes to learn from them. I don't know. But what happened in the second half with the Titans offense was unacceptable. On top of that, I'm a big fan of Caleb Williams. I believe in him. He was 14 for 29 passing and 93 yards. He also had 5 carries for 15 yards, and he was missing receivers open in a way I've never seen before. He's a really accurate quarterback. I watched him a ton at USC in college. he had guys open down the sideline, like not just NFL open, but like college open, where they're open by like 5, 6, 7 yards, and he missed them flat out. And I've never seen that from him. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what happened psychologically to him. I don't know what's going on. It's almost a joke. It's like, do all quarterbacks go to Chicago to die? Like, what the heck happened to Caleb Williams? It was a frustratingly bad performance from Caleb Williams, and a quarterback who I think is much better than what we saw week one. And I just really wonder, man, do they got the right coach in Chicago? They got defensive head coach Matt Eberflus. They got Shane Waldron, the offensive coordinator. You have clear and obvious talent on the offensive side of the football in Chicago. I just don't know that they got the right coach to shepherd a young quarterback along. He couldn't work with Justin Fields. It's one game in. I don't want to overreact, but a terrible start to the Caleb Williams era as far as his ability and his play on the offensive side of the football. I know they won, but they did not win because of their quarterback. It was really bad and ugly for Caleb Williams.
I will say he did throw a perfect ball to Keenan Allen, who dropped it in the end zone. That would have been a touchdown, and obviously they ended up kicking a field goal there. To me, what I saw from Caleb Williams is a guy who was thinking a lot. He just looked slow. It looked like, what he's known for, right? Extending plays. He kind of has that innate feel in the pocket to not just escape, but to escape to the right place, get out and into safety so that he can extend plays. To me, it just felt like he was maybe hanging in there a half second longer, not really trusting his instincts. Like, I want to get out, but I can't and then all of a sudden he's sacked, or spinning just a half second too long on the read and not letting it fly. Or like you said, when he's missing the open guys, it's almost like they're too open and he's like, am I missing something? Am I about to throw a pick to, a linebacker or a safety I don't see? And to me, I think in a couple of weeks, we'll start to see a better version of Caleb Williams once that speed starts to pick up. He didn't play a whole ton of snaps in the preseason. First time seeing live bullets. I think it will get better, but to me, the most damning thing was the run game. DeAndre Swift, 10 carries. Velus Jones Jr., 2 carries. Travis Homer, 2 carries. Khalil Herbert, 2 carries. That's too many guys toting the rock. Way too many guys. Ride Swift. You need to give him 15 plus carries per game. And again, just don't abandon the run game. Even when you're down a score and a half, you just have to keep working it. It keeps linebackers honest. It keeps safeties honest. It keeps the D-line from coming up field at Caleb. Like, you just have to trust it. And I didn't see that from Shane Waldron whatsoever. I also don't feel like I saw a lot of opportunity for Caleb to get the ball out quickly. Again, he was only 14 for 29. That's not a great completion percentage, but I didn't see a lot of easy throws set up for him. And I know he did miss some, let's be very clear, but man, tough.
Well, you have to ask, are they putting him in a position to succeed?
I'm not a Shane Waldron fan. I hope that things can turn around for the Bears offense. So I just need Caleb Williams to think a little bit less.
I mean, it sounds like your take, which I would tend to agree with, is let's give it some time. Let's not overreact to one game. Let's wait till it's week 8 and we've seen enough really from him to make a strong judgment. He looked bad week 1, but he's a rookie quarterback making his first ever start and on an organization that was not very good last year. Let's take a deep breath. Let's relax and let's evaluate as time goes on and let things progress before we hit the panic button in Chicago.
Yes, except for Daniel Jones and the Giants. It's time.
We'll get to that. Let's talk about the Patriots if you want. The Patriots beat the Bengals 16-10 in Cincinnati. I got 2 questions, if I may, kind of go on a little diatribe here. Sure. Question number 1, are the Bengals in trouble? And then question number 2 is, are the Patriots better than we expected? I want to first answer the first one. Are the Bengals in trouble? Because here's kind of some context there. We've seen the Bengals organization slowly deteriorate since they made that Super Bowl appearance a couple years ago against the Rams. They've eroded. They've lost pieces. They lost Brian Callahan, their offensive coordinator. They lost Joe Mixon. They lost CJ Uzama. They lost Tyler Boyd. They're not the same team they once were, and they're struggling to pay people. They're not even paying Jamar Chase. It's just, we're seeing a Bengals organization that one perspective could be, hey, they've just eroded over time. Now, it's week 1. You can't overreact too strongly to week 1, but what I saw, if the Patriots are as bad as I thought they were, which maybe I was wrong about the Patriots too, we can also acknowledge there's some thought process there we have to talk about. But it was a really alarming performance for the Bengals where I don't want to hit the panic button, but I want to go, oh, my red flags are going off. And that's a concern. What did you make of the Bengals week one?
I didn't get to watch this game very much. It
Yeah.
wasn't one that I wanted to turn on, and I kept seeing that ticker come across and checking fantasy, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, it's so close. And Bengals got this.
Yeah.
Oh, it's okay. Do the Bengals have this? Is everything okay?" And clearly, they did not.
Yeah.
I think you're right. They certainly missed Brian Callahan offensively. Um, T. Higgins being a late scratch. Jamar Chase, you're not really sure if he was or wasn't going to play, and then he
He took
got
a
it.
nasty hit in this game, by the way. He got like obliterated. It was like,
Did he?
oh, it
Man.
made you look away like, yikes, he better get paid soon. It was
Yeah,
like,
and
oh
then
no.
he kind of got listed as having an illness. So you're really leaning on Andre Iosovas, Jermaine Burton, who I thought was going to be fantastic, didn't even see the field. It sounds like he has some issues staying in the playbook, which Joe Burrow has called out. That offense was just, in shambles. And then defensively, Ramondre Stevenson, 25 carries. Jacoby Brissett ran it seven times. Antonio Gibson 7 times. So they committed to the run game. They just said, hey, we are going to limit any possible mistakes. We're going to try and score when we can. And if we can't, okay, we're going to kick the ball and play some solid defense. And at the end of the day, that's what New England did. I don't think New England did anything special to win the game, at least looking at the box score here. But to me, it just looks like the Bengals were all out of sorts. 16 carries between all your running backs. Joe Burrow was 21 for 29, but for only 164 yards, it's not very good. So again, this is just box score view. It just looked like Bengals were out of sorts offensively, and the Patriots just said, hey, we're going to try and play mistake-free football.
Yeah, I thought it was a really clean game for the Patriots all around. You got to kind of celebrate Gerard Mayo getting his first win much sooner than I expected. I was like, wow, hey,
So much sooner.
that's awesome for the Patriots. I mean, I don't know how you possibly walk away from the Patriots not feeling good about them. Like, hey, that's awesome. They look better on defense than I expected. They did some really good stuff. They shut down the Bengals, quite frankly, at times in this football game. Let's look ahead for the Bengals. They play the Chiefs next week in Cincinnati. Then they play Washington, the Panthers, the Ravens, the Giants, the Browns. So they've got a lot of winnable games down the stretch. Washington, Carolina, the Giants, Cleveland looked awful week one. That Chiefs game feels like a disaster for them coming up next weekend in Kansas City. I don't know how to. I want to just kind of lay something like make a statement about Cincinnati, and I don't know what it's going to be yet. But I've got concerns about Cincinnati, and I want to see where they're at come a couple weeks from now when they play after they played Kansas City, the Ravens, and Philadelphia. So what is that? End of October, we're gonna have a really good idea how good Cincinnati is. They're probably going to beat up on bad teams and look really overwhelmed by good teams. It's going to be worse if they struggle against a team like Washington or Carolina. But I think maybe we got to, I personally feel like it's possible we're going to have to take a step backward on Cincinnati. If they struggle like I think they might next week on the road at Kansas City, if they're 0-2 and look really bad next week, then we're going to have to collectively go, yeah, Kansas City might not be as good as we thought they were going to be going into this season.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think you meant to say the Bengals there. But yeah, just certainly don't think that they're going to be. I'm now a little bit concerned. Again, everything is difficult week one.
Yeah.
Starters haven't played a whole ton. All the things that we typically say.
The Patriots,
But
for
that was
me,
not positive. That was not a positive showing.
you look at it, the Patriots schedule, the Jets game is going to be tough. So they play at the Jets, at the 49ers, then Miami, then Houston. That's a really tough stretch. Seattle next week is really interesting for the Patriots, though, where I think the Patriots, like what I saw from them was, hey, this is a competent football team, better than I might have thought. And the games now that I thought were going to be really ugly for them, like Seattle, the Titans, the Bears, the Cardinals, these are games now that I view as very winnable. I still think the Patriots are probably like a 5-6 win team, but that's, I think, better than I originally thought they were going to be. And it really, if they can play clean football, play some solid defense, not have turnovers, that's a team that's going to win games against lesser opponents like Tennessee, like Arizona.
Yeah.
And it makes a lot of their games feel much more manageable when you look at the Patriots schedule. If they can play like they did week one the rest of the year, they're going to win some games against bad football teams. And that's exciting to me if you're a Patriots fan.
Yeah, and the thing is what does this team look like when they have to come from behind? I think that's the ultimate tell all of how good a team actually is when you got to drop back and throw the football a number of times. When you do have to abandon the run game, can you do it? Obviously, I don't think Jacoby Brissett's the guy to do that. Um, but yeah, if they can play clean football, they'll have a better chance. But I'm not sure how much was their defense inhibiting the Bengals versus the Bengals kind of shooting them own selves in the foot, and then carry that on to the next games. What kind of offense are we going to see? Up against the Patriots. I will say though, Christian Gonzalez is a lockdown corner, so that's probably why Jamar Chase had such a tough time.
Hmm.
But man, having him to match up one-on-one on your back end, you can take out a team's number one wide receiver. That can help out a little bit on defense.
Miami beat the Jaguars 20-17. And one thing that really stands out to me about this football game, the Jaguars did not score at all in the second half. It was close. It was fun. They had a lead. They did have a really good drive in the third quarter, but then Travis Etienne fumbled on the goal line. It was if you're a Jaguars fan, it had to be frustrating because there were so many flashes of brilliance. We're like, the Jaguars look awesome. And then they just kind of
Yeah.
crumbled in the second half. What do you make of that game?
Isn't that what we've seen from the Jaguars though for the past couple years? Is these flashes of wow, like this could be a seriously good football team, and then what the f is going on? I mean, that was legitimately a 14-point swing with that fumble by Travis Etienne. You go from essentially putting that game away to next play is a 70-yard bomb to Tyreek Hill. You let him get behind you. That was the only thing you couldn't do is give up a 70-yard bomb to Tyreek Hill, and you did. Again, so close to blowing them out. I think that one thing to note is the Jaguars' defense might be better than we thought, especially against this Miami offense. Again, they maybe had a few kinks to work out here and there as well, like a lot of these offenses do in week one. But man, Eric Armstead in the middle there was causing a lot of problems, both in the run game and the pass game, kind of limiting what the Dolphins were able to do. But yeah, there's just that microcosm of the Jacksonville Jaguars not being able to put it all together and just continuing to be one of the most confusing teams in the NFL. I thought Trevor played okay. He didn't necessarily do anything spectacular. That ball he did throw to Brian Thomas Jr. was ridiculous. I don't know how you see that as the spot to throw the ball. They just need to finish games.
Well, let's say it. Brian Thomas Jr., their rookie receiver at LSU, had 4 catches for 47 yards and a touchdown. I think you're right, though. The defense, it was an imperfect game for the Jaguars. It's a game they didn't put away. They didn't finish it. However, also it was encouraging from the standpoint that, hey, your defense looks pretty good against a really capable offense. When they play Cleveland and the Bills the next 2 weeks, you go, hey, they're going to shut down Deshaun Watson. And then we saw the Bills game. The Bills struggled against Arizona. I think the Jaguars are better than Arizona, and there's an opportunity there to make some noise in the next 2 weeks and win 2 football games. What's going to get really interesting is after those 2 games, you play at Houston, then you play the Colts, 2 really, really competitive, interesting football teams. I think we're going to learn a lot. The next 4 games, we're going to learn a ton about the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I don't know what to make of them, but I think they got a really good opportunity against Cleveland and Buffalo to win the next 2 weeks and make a statement there.
Yeah, and I think that we also got to take a look at the back end of the Dolphins. You got Jalen Ramsey, the highest paid corner in football, I believe now. I probably wouldn't have paid him that money, but whatever. You still got Javon Holland back there at safety. You brought in the cat from the Bills, actually, so he's going to have a nice game coming back. Yeah, Jordan Poyer. So, you've got some great dudes on the back end. That makes it hard for any offense. And then on the flip side, Tua threw for 330 plus yards, had a touchdown. Probably could have had 1 or 2 more if things were really, really humming. But you love to see Waddle and Tyreek both having over 100 yards.
I think it's disappointing. The second half for Jacksonville went punt, 3 and out, fumble, turnover and downs, punt. I mean, it just didn't get anything going in the second half.
We completely overlooked that aspect too. I'm so sorry to cut you off, but that was a horrible 4th down call. Kick the ball away.
Yeah.
Or how about this? Draw up a better fourth down play call. That
Yeah.
was horrendous. I'm sorry. Keep going.
Yeah. I mean, I thought the Jacksonville Jaguars, look, when you pay a quarterback what you paid him, Trevor Lawrence, do you expect that guy to show up in the fourth quarter when it matters most? In the second half, I thought he didn't make plays that were there, and there were opportunities, and he didn't make them. I'm very lukewarm on Trevor Lawrence. He got paid a ton of money. He's won a playoff game, I guess, but it's just never quite come together. Every time I watch him, I'm waiting, and I'm still waiting to see him really arrive as the quarterback and as the man in Jacksonville. I know they paid him like he is, but right now he looks like a really tall, expensive quarterback that hasn't done much in Jacksonville, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I'll add another note too. I think that pass rush, I think, looked a little bit better from the Dolphins than I anticipated as
Mm.
well. Jalen
Yeah.
Phillips really impressed me with how healthy he came back. I'm so
Yeah.
excited for him that what happened last year didn't completely take him out of things, and glad that he's rehabbed well, and I hope that he continues to sustain that success and that health.
The Saints beat Carolina 47-10 in New Orleans. I kind of the questions you walk away from this game are the Saints that good, or is Carolina just that
Definitely not.
awful? Is it maybe a bit of both? What do you make of that game?
I think that was a mix of both. I think the Panthers are atrocious. Bryce Young played horrible. Uh, with
Can I say this, by the way? Bryce Young's
yes,
first
please
throw of
go
the
ahead.
year. Bryce Young's first throw of the year was an interception, and you're like, oh, that's rough. I mean, we were rooting for him. We both
We
want to
want
see
him
Bryce
to
Young
do well.
succeed, but we're getting comments. People are saying we're wrong about Bryce Young. I'm like, Bryce Young is frankly, there's no reason to believe in him until he proves us otherwise. There's no reason to believe in Bryce Young. He's got 2 interceptions in this football game. Looked lost at times against the New Orleans Saints.
Looking here at the box score, 13-30 is never going to get it done. You have 2 picks. That first interception's bad. The second one was arguably worse. I just don't understand. And I know that they have a new coach. I just don't understand what they need to do to set Bryce Young up for success and for this team to look competitive, right? That's all we were asking for to start the season is, can they show up and be competitive? Can they play physical? Can they hang with teams? Can the offense look somewhat competent? And it really didn't. And you end up making a New Orleans team that we're all completely out on. You make them look like gods. You made Derek Carr look amazing. 200 yards and 3 touchdowns, 19 of 23. He looked fantastic. I don't know what to make of the Saints still. I'm still not convinced or bought into what they have going on. I think they'll still have maybe a top 15 defense in the league, but Carolina looks just as bad as they did last year.
Well, let's also talk about this. So Carolina had the 4th best defense in football last year. They're a top 5 defense. They lost Brian Burns, but somehow they fumbled that progress they made as a defense is totally gone as well. I don't know what to make in New Orleans. I think the jury's still out. Let's have it, but I also have an open mind. Like, Derek Carr executed at a really, really high level in this football game. It's in his second year in that system in New Orleans. I think it's possible Derek Carr is back. I don't want to. We'll see. Let's be patient and see what happens. But a couple of years ago, Derek Carr looked like an MVP candidate in a Raiders uniform. He got hurt. They made a playoff game. He wasn't healthy enough to
A couple
play. And
years
then,
ago, that was like 2016.
sure, no, sure. But what I'm saying is, like, there was a point in time where Derek Carr was on top of the world, looked incredible.
Right.
Maybe he's back to that. Because also, remember, think of what happened with the Raiders organization. They had so much turmoil since that moment. They had different coaches in and out. They had lots of receivers. Antonio Brown looked like he was going to play. Then he didn't. Then they had Henry Ruggs. What went down with him? Like, they had so much turmoil on the offensive side of the football. And really, as an organization in the Raiders franchise, maybe he just needed a year to get some stability in the Saints uniform. And maybe, like, I just want to leave the possibility open for maybe Derek Carr is back and playing really, really well. And I'm not convinced of that yet. It remains to be seen. But what we saw week 1 gave definitely open for the possible. It made things possible for the reality that Derek Carr is just a really good quarterback and humming in a really good offense he's comfortable in. And he's been in it for a year. So now he's got answers he didn't have last year. I just want to leave that possibility open that maybe Derek Carr is actually really good, and maybe the Saints, maybe, let's be very clear, I'm saying maybe, maybe they're the clear front runner in that division, the NFC South, because it didn't look like Atlanta week one. And you look at the level of
Very true.
execution
Very
from the
true.
Saints compared to Atlanta, like it's head and shoulders. It's a totally different level of execution from what we saw in New Orleans compared to what we saw in Atlanta week one.
Yeah, certainly agreed there. So now the division maybe looks a little bit more interesting. I would like to point out that Clint Kubiak is now the offensive coordinator for the Saints in his first year, so there was a little bit of
Oh,
change there.
you're right. My bad.
Maybe
My fault. No. That's
no,
inexcusable. I'm sorry.
no, but maybe in a positive way, he's speaking the same language as Derek Carr. Maybe there's some synergy there that they're finding together offensively that's going to yield more success. Hopefully that's the case, so we don't have to see hundreds of checkdowns to Alvin Kamara like we did last year. Um, yeah, maybe the jury is still out, but right now I don't care. I'm still out.
Yeah, they fired Pete Carmichael. I apologize. Dang it, man! I was so excited. I don't know. Either way, what I saw from Derek Carr week one was incredible execution, and I think it's actually more impressive than you see a quarterback Derek Carr in a new offense executing the way he did compared to Kirk Cousins in a new offense executing the way he did. Like that, it's crazy that it actually puts an emphasis on wow. Derek Carr looked really good week one in a new system compared to Kirk Cousins, who looked lost in a new system. Granted, vastly different defenses are playing, right?
Yeah.
The Pittsburgh Steelers are abusing Kirk Cousins, getting after him every play, where Derek Carr had a lot of time to throw, looked really comfortable. But I just saw that, look, man, I watched that game a lot, Carolina, New Orleans, and I was like, wow, the execution level is really, really top notch. And so much so it actually fooled me thinking he was in his second year of a system where he just had every answer and looked really,
Mhm.
really comfortable. I think, man, it grabbed my attention enough to go, let's like leave a little tab folder open about New Orleans and kind of check back on them as the year goes on, because maybe they're really good. And that's all it took was a new offensive coordinator and Derek Carr feeling comfortable again.
Yeah, again, you get Clint Kubiak. He's a guy who comes from the Niners. He's been an offensive coordinator before, so perhaps he has some fresh ideas.
He
And
worked with Johnny Manziel in Texas A&M actually too. He's got a rich history. I mean, his dad Gary Kubiak was a coach, and
right,
there's some Shanahan history there with not just Kyle but Mike Shanahan too, because his dad coached for Mike Shanahan in the Denver Broncos Super Bowl era. There's a rich history with Clinton Kubiak, who knows the game really, really well. And
he's got some
man,
offensive prowess. Love to
oh
see
yeah.
that.
How about the Chargers, man? They beat the Raiders 22-10. I don't have a lot to say here. I think that the thing that stands out to me is that we had this whole debate. How long is it going to take for the Chargers to figure out how to win under Jim Harbaugh? Apparently not very long. They won in their first game 22-10. I do want to say though, they didn't pull away till late in the fourth quarter. I mean, it was a I guess they
No.
scored early in the fourth quarter to take a bigger lead, but it was close for three quarters until the Raiders couldn't keep up and the Chargers pulled away.
Yeah.
J.K. Dobbins had 10 carries for 135 yards, I believe a touchdown as well. He played really well. I mean, I just thought that the style of football the Chargers played against the Raiders was really interesting. It was
It
classic
looked like
Jim Harbaugh.
Michigan. It
Yeah,
looked
it
like
really did.
Michigan
Yeah.
offense.
Oh, yeah.
And I believe I did get on this show and say that J.K. Dobbins was going to end up being the RB1 despite being listed behind Gus Edwards. Maybe that was just a game flow thing going with the hot hand. But again, J.K. Dobbins was so talented in Baltimore, but just couldn't stay healthy. It's clear to me he lost that, top end speed, that extra gear. But man, he's physical. He's tough to bring down, running through the hole in and of itself. He's just a really, really solid back. Pray he can stay healthy. What I love to see is Justin Herbert didn't have to do anything. He handed the ball off. He made throws when he needed to make throws, but he didn't have to be Superman. He didn't have to score, 27 points a game like he did under Brandon Staley. I mean, it's been one game, and this defense already looks better with Jim Harbaugh, which is, we knew that defense was overpaid. A couple years ago, it was the most expensive defense in the league. We knew it had talent, but it wasn't performing well. So it was obviously the coaching. So to kind of, wrap that bow on it, it's great to see the run game working, for these teams as everybody's trying to, load up on wide receivers and throw the ball. There's nothing better than the good old fashioned run game. I feel like I'm turning into an old man. It was great to see them be less Justin Herbert reliant. It was great to see the defense play better. But also let's take it with a grain of salt. To me, they played a pretty, lackluster, pretty bad not Oakland Raiders, Las Vegas Raiders team. I don't think that offense was particularly great. Um, I don't think Gardner Minshew really did anything of note. He kind of like took what was there, but there was no catalyst. There was no pop on that Vegas side of the ball. They couldn't unlock Devontae Adams. They couldn't really get the run game going. Just there's nothing to write home about on that team. And I think we saw some frustration start to come through on that defensive side between Wilkins and Crosby. Like they couldn't get to him. Whatever the Chargers were scheming up, running the ball and in pass protection, they were taking those guys out of the game, minimizing their effect. And when you have a coach that can do that in Jim Harbaugh, it really makes that other side of the ball, the Raiders look worse.
Yeah, the Raiders had 2 turnovers. Minshew had a pick. He had a fumble. Samir Wright had a fumble. I think that really where I want to leave it here with the Raiders and the Chargers is that Justin Herbert finally had defensive support. He had a defense forcing turnovers, holding the other team to 10 points. I mean, I love you compare what happened in Buffalo, with the Cardinals game, and Josh Allen had to play Superman, to Justin Herbert getting support and getting help for the first time maybe in his entire NFL career. Pretty cool to see.
He probably slept so well. He probably kicked his feet up. He probably had himself a hot chocolate. I feel like he's a guy who doesn't drink. He had himself a hot chocolate, maybe a glass of apple juice, and he just relaxed and said, "Thank goodness I have some support." And also, I want to give a quick shout out to Lad McConkey. What a move he made for his touchdown. We knew that he was quick. We knew that he could make moves once he had the ball in hand. So that was promising to see that, get the ball to him in space. Again, we knew he wasn't going to be a wide receiver, big body, one type guy, but going to be a very, very good weapon for the Chargers.
Who said the Chargers had no weapons at all a couple weeks ago? who would have said that? I could have been me. No, man.
I'm calling the cops. We got him.
They looked like they had weapons week 1, and between J.K. Dobbins, Lad McConkey, I mean, it was really encouraging if you're a Chargers fan.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of there's more of them out there than you would believe. They're on the internet. I know I talk to them a lot, so I'm happy for them.
Yeah. I still do want to, again, tamper the expectations. It's week 1. It was the Raiders, who I don't think are going to be very good this year. But yeah, just a lot of positive things I think came through for the Chargers.
Well, let's talk about another team, then we'll circle back to the Chargers. Actually, it'll be relevant in a minute. You'll see why. Seattle beat Denver 26-20 week 1. And what I want to talk about is Seattle looked okay. Cool for, Mike McDonald getting his first win as a rookie head coach. Very exciting for him. And I don't know what to make of Seattle yet. It's not that impressive of a victory, and we'll learn more about Seattle as the year goes on. But Broncos rookie quarterback Bo Nix was 26 for 42 passing at 138 yards, 2 interceptions. He was a leading rusher. He had 5 carries for 35 yards and a touchdown. What'd you make of what you saw from Bo Nix week 1?
To me, it's kind of hard to wrap up what Bo Nix did. I thought he had a solid game for a rookie, but I don't think he necessarily did anything spectacular. He took the throws that were there, that were in front of him. If I remember correctly, he had a pretty bad interception as well. But I think there's some positive things for him. Again, it looked like he knew where to go with the ball. He looked calm more often than not. So, you can feel good about him moving forward. But I still don't think that offense is where it needs to be, either running the football or throwing the football. I think part of that is just the weapons they have available. I don't think Denver has a very excellent roster. And I see a lot of people kind of coming down on Bo Nix for his average depth of target. I'm not sure what you guys expected with his Sean Payton offense. Drew Brees made a killing with those short underneath throws, quick throws to Mike Thomas. And we're going to see things like that from Bo Nix. So don't get caught up in this average depth of target. Oh, he's a check down merchant, blah, blah, blah. Just let Bo Nix grow with this, Sean Payton offense. And we'll see if this Sean Payton offense can still be effective in the NFL.
Yeah, I especially given he's a rookie quarterback, I just can't. I don't think anyone can come down panicking and come down too hard on Bo Nix. I thought Caleb Williams looked way worse week 1 than Bo Nix did. Bo Nix looked more comfortable than Caleb Williams, looked more accurate than Caleb Williams. You're a rookie. It's your first game. You're going to make mistakes. No one's going to be perfect. I just think you have to be patient with a young quarterback.
Yeah.
All these guys, whether it's Jaden Daniels or Bo Nix or Caleb Williams. I would even throw Will Levis in there because he's still a young quarterback learning. He's got more time, more experience. He should have higher expectations than a rookie, but um, you just got to be patient with young quarterbacks and can't come down too hard on them after one game. It's just kind of ridiculous. I saw more hate on any quarterback than the quarterback I thought got the most hate after week one was Bo Nix, and I thought that was pretty weird. I was just like, that seems unwarranted. Let's give it some time before you really criticize and are too brutal and too harsh on the young man.
Yeah, again, 26 completions for only 138 yards. This is not very good. But again, he's working through some things, and I didn't see anything from him that made me be like, "Oh my goodness, like this is really not going to work." He did throw 2 picks. I get that. Maybe this is the Oregon homer in me really, really wanting him to work. But I'm confident that he'll start to groove and figure things out. On the flip side, new head coach, new offensive coordinator or not, that Seattle team, I needed to see some more offense from them. I'm going to be very straightforward with the weapons that they have with Kenneth Walker, right? You've got Jackson Smith and Jigba. You've got DK Metcalf. You still got Tyler Lockett, who had an excellent catch down the sideline. He can still catch any ball that's thrown his way. We needed to see more. I felt like we needed to see more, especially against this Denver team that's depleted on the offense and defensive side of the football. That was a very unimpressive game to me. Geno Smith, 18 for 25 with 171 yards. Okay, cool. A touchdown and a pick. But goodness gracious, I needed to see more outside of Kenneth Walker carrying the load. I know that Ryan Grubb stated he wanted to lead with the run game, but I thought this offense was going to look more dynamic, and to me it just looked vanilla again, and that was a little bit concerning to me.
The next 4 games, Seattle plays a team on all ends of the spectrum. They play at New England, they play Miami at home, then they play at Detroit against the Lions, then they play the Giants. That's a team that's really good, a team that's solid, a team that's the Patriots we're not really sure about, but played really good defense week one, and a team, the Giants, that are awful. 4 games from now, we're going to have a really good read on where Seattle stands. How do they handle, the Lions and the Dolphins? How do they handle a good defense like the Patriots, at least we think is a good defense after 1 week? Do they obliterate the Giants like they should? We're going to learn a lot about Seattle in the next 4 weeks and really have a good idea where they stand come week at the end of week 5 after that Giants game.
Yeah, and I think that this matchup with the Patriots is going to be very, very interesting. When you play a better defense, one that's going to challenge and frustrate, your offense, what are we going to see?
A good corner like Christian Gonzalez.
Right.
It's going to be really interesting to me. I think that's the game we're going to gather a lot of intel from, is that Patriots Seattle game next week.
Yeah, both for the Patriots, we'll see if are they a middling team or are they bad? In Seattle, are they a middling team or are they like actually a good team? We'll have to see. The defense, though, and Byron Murphy, I'd like to give him a shout out. He was causing havoc up there at that nose tackle position. I thought he looked really, really good. Great draft pick by the Seattle Seahawks.
Who's the second best team in the AFC West? Is it the Broncos or the Chargers after 1 week?
I think it's the Raiders after 1 week. I think that they've just
The Raiders?
Nah, I'm just messing around.
Get out of here, dude.
To me, it looks like the Chargers. The week 1 performance, again, that leaning on the run game, not asking your quarterback to do a whole ton. Bo Nix throws 42 times versus, Justin Herbert throwing for, I think, like 23 or 24. Like, that's what you want to see. Granted, matchups, opponents, week 1, all those things play into it. But yeah, if you ask me who that second best team was, I would certainly say the Chargers.
I want to be very careful. How do I say this? I want to talk about Cleveland and I want to talk about Dallas, but I want to talk about Dallas first and then I want to talk about Cleveland. Kind of one then the other. So the Cowboys beat the Cleveland Browns 33-17 in Cleveland. To me, that's a hard win to get a read on for the Dallas Cowboys. I'm not that excited about the Dallas Cowboys. Dak wasn't overwhelmingly great, but I do think there's some good players on defense in Cleveland that make opposing quarterbacks have trouble. I'm dead serious when I say, like, I just don't know what to make of this game. In fact, I'm excited for the next 2 games for Dallas. They play the Saints and then the Baltimore Ravens. Those games are going to teach us a lot about the Dallas Cowboys. And given how bad the Browns offense looked, I find it hard to really judge the Cleveland Browns right now because their offense was a disaster and a mess. And it's hard to play good defense when you're getting no run support from your offense. So it's weird to say this, but I feel like I didn't learn much about the Dallas Cowboys. They won a game they should. It's hard to knock a team for winning, but I don't know if you would agree. I found it hard to judge what we saw from the Cowboys week one.
Yeah, I think just that defense came out so sweltering hot. It is really, really hard to tell. Combine that with what was very clear offensive woes for the Browns. Certainly hard to judge. But one of the great things that we talked about was, yes, you lost Dan Quinn, but you got Mike Zimmer. You know, that's
Yeah.
that's a great replacement for defensive coordinator. And man, they were firing on all cylinders. They came out hot. They came out aggressive, and borderline just scared the the Cleveland defense. And that Cleveland defense was out there for a lot of plays. I feel like that we didn't really see any game wrecking from anyone, in particular, Myles Garrett on the Browns, and it was just a very strange game. It didn't seem like Cleveland was ready to play, and it seemed like that Dallas defense was just on one.
Yeah. I am open to being wrong about the Dallas Cowboys. I had them winning 6 games this
I'm
year.
not. Fuck them.
I'm not. I'm open. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm open. I'm open to it. But I want to see more. They play New Orleans. They play Baltimore. They play the Giants. They should crush the Giants. But Pittsburgh and Detroit, week 5 and week 6 are going to be really difficult for them, I think. Detroit's really good. Pittsburgh plays incredible defense. I'm not a huge fan of the offensive line in Dallas. I'm willing to be wrong, but I want to see more before I commit to that and really acknowledge that. Dallas Cowboys fans want me to say, you were totally wrong. The Cowboys are amazing. I'm like, it's one game. Let's wait and see what happens. I don't want to overreact to it, but I do want to acknowledge it's possible I was wrong about the Cowboys, but I want to just give it more time before and really see what happens in the next couple of weeks before we make a declaration like that. But I want to talk about Cleveland because, oh my goodness, man, it's a disaster what's going on with the Cleveland Browns quarterback situation. Deshaun Watson was 24 for 45 passing. It's a 53% completion percentage. Had 169 yards. Ironically, 69 is a funny word there given who Deshaun Watson is. 1 touchdown pass, 2 interceptions, 5 carries, 39 yards. They paid
You're
him.
just gonna skate right past that joke.
Yeah, I have to. I don't want to. We'll talk about Deshaun Watson's colored past.
Okay.
Baker Mayfield played incredible for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers week 1. It was so clear Baker's a really good quarterback. And definitely, no matter what you say, much better than Deshaun Watson is. They worked so hard to get rid of Baker Mayfield. They traded 3 first-round picks. They paid Deshaun Watson a ton of money to bring him into Cleveland. He's been an absolute failure, top to bottom. He's created problems off the field. He's played terrible when he's been healthy. There have been times where it seems like he's healthy enough to play, but refuses to play. He's collecting a crazy check, playing terrible football. It's an abject failure. The Cleveland Browns made a horrendous move to bring in Deshaun Watson. It's gone terribly. He's now getting accused of more sexual assault. There's a new lawsuit coming out against Deshaun Watson. It goes on and on and on. He continues to play terrible football. It's an embarrassment. If you're a Cleveland Browns fan, I feel terrible for you. I was once a Seattle Mariners fan, and I watched them trade a player I loved, Adam Jones, for a pitcher, Eric Bedard. And it was enough for me to go, I'm done with this team. I've got no control. It's so frustrating to watch a team that's poorly ran.
Yeah.
That's a small example. The Cleveland Browns just shot themselves in the foot, and I thought embarrassed their franchise, have really ruined any progress they made with a great roster, a coach who I know you hate him. I think he won a playoff game, the first playoff game in the history of the Cleveland Browns. I know I'm going off here, but if you're a Browns fan, I don't know how you possibly support this franchise. Not because Deshaun Watson seems like a terrible person off the field. It's that your organization got rid of a good quarterback for one that's clearly objectively awful. It's like, how can you support that? I'd be so frustrated if I was a Browns fan watching my former quarterback Baker Mayfield throw on 4 touchdowns, looking really good week 1. Well, you're stuck with Deshaun Watson playing, frankly, like fucking dog shit. It would be so awful to be a Browns fan right now. I feel so bad for them. What do you make of everything I just said?
No qualms on my side. It's it's not very, very disappointing. It is extremely disappointing to see the way Deshaun Watson is playing football. We tried to give him the benefit of the doubt last year. It didn't work out. I can't give him the benefit of the doubt anymore. He's seen and played enough football. He's been in and around the team, the locker room, playing games, joint practices. It's and it hasn't looked any better. At no point has it started to look better. Like he's understanding the offense, like he has an ability to move the football down the field. It just looks so awful. And if we're being honest, if it wasn't for that garbage time touchdown to Jerome Ford, this was a worse offensive performance. Amari Cooper and Jerry Jeudy were missed downfield a number of times. He took bad sacks. Like it just, I don't know what it is with Deshaun Watson out there. Obviously, I mean, sacked 6 times. That's horrible. I
Well,
just
if he wasn't paid
bad.
the money he's been paid, he wouldn't have a job.
No.
Let's be very clear. He's still the starting quarterback because of what he got paid. In fact, if he didn't have the contract he had, Joe Flacco would be the starting quarterback in Cleveland. Joe Flacco played so much better than Deshaun Watson has ever played in a Browns uniform. It's
Yeah.
shameful. It's really clear like he's only playing because of the money they paid him, not because he's earned it once on the field. It's fucking awful. I mean, I really like. I think Kevin Stefanski did not work very well with Baker Mayfield. They seemed like they didn't like each other. It seemed like there was all this
No.
consternation. I just don't know what's up with that. But say what you want about Deshaun Watson. He's played terrible. It's also true that Kevin Stefanski has not put a system in place that works to the strengths of Deshaun Watson. They're asking him to do too
Baker
many
Mayfield.
things. But I think Baker was better at what Kevin Stefanski wants. Deshaun Watson's terrible at running this offense. You're trying to put a square peg into a round hole. It just doesn't work. It's Deshaun Watson's never going to run this offense effectively. He doesn't have the skill set required to do that. And
let's be clear. We don't need Deshaun Watson putting anything in anything, square or circle, regardless. We don't need that. But again, to me, is you just brought it up. Like they've done nothing to try and find anything that works for Deshaun Watson. Which the first and obvious option is running a few more things out of shotgun. I know that takes away from the Stefanski offense, but to me, he's been so bullheaded in how he wants his offense to work. He did it with Kirk Cousins. He's done it with Baker Mayfield. Now doing it with Deshaun Watson. Like at a certain point, when do you start looking at this offense that you have, and instead of saying, hey, like we're just going to try and force this guy to fit, do you start making some adjustments to try and open things up and make him comfortable? I don't think that's the case. I think this new lawsuit that's coming out for Deshaun Watson is intended to officially get him out the door. I don't think that they want him there anymore. They can't take that cap hit. They don't want to. But at a certain point, you gotta cut bait. And I don't know if it's benching Deshaun Watson, but I know that the Packers are. There's been some conversation about picking up, Ryan Tannehill. I'd pick up and I'd make a phone call for Ryan Tannehill also. Because he seems like a Joe Flacco-esque guy, hand the ball off, heavy play action, and deliver the football. Nothing more, nothing less.
I wonder if the lawsuit makes it possible at all for the Browns to get out of the contract. Is there? I mean, there's still so many more years left. Like you still have a lot of money left to pay Deshaun Watson. Is there any way for the Browns to get out of this? I wonder. Like
I'm sure that there's something related to NFL conduct that might, but it's also fully guaranteed. So once that's in there, is there any sort of get out clause? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. It's all bad. It's really, really terrible. You also, so look, as much as I struggle with Deshaun Watson, his off the field conduct, his play on the field is terrible. Physically, like the dude can throw a football. I mean, let's acknowledge that, right? Like he has talent that's clear. It makes you wonder if the talent could be directed in a different direction. Could he be utilized differently? I really have a hard time respecting Kevin Stefanski for this one thing. I was once an offensive coordinator very briefly, but I was tasked with designing an offense for the players we had on the team at the time. And so I said, hey, I can't just impose my will on this team. I got to run the system that works for the players we have.
Mm-hmm.
Look, that's at a high school level. It's very different. However, that's what a good coach does, in my opinion, is build a system that works for the personnel you have on the roster. Kevin Stefanski has not done that at all for Deshaun Watson. He's never once designed a system that works for Deshaun. He's built an offense that runs the way he wants to run things and what he's comfortable doing. I frankly think it's bad coaching to not adapt your system to the people you have on your team. That's not gone on at all in Cleveland. There's a lot of things going wrong. It's the quarterback who's a mess playing terrible. It's also a coach refusing to adjust or adapt at all. And it's weird and baffling. It's frustrating to watch from afar. And then to add insult to injury, again, your former quarterback Baker Mayfield is getting a ton of money, playing really well in Tampa, and you're like, You had the guy. You had the right quarterback, and you literally did everything you could. You worked really hard to get rid of him and shamefully push him out of the organization. It's just a disaster. I don't look. I think Browns fans are loyal. They're Browns fans for life. They're from Cleveland, dog pound, whatever. They're not going to walk away from their team. But I remember as a child supporting an organization that repeatedly let me down over and over again. And I want to say this to Browns fans. I want you to know your organization let you down like horrendously. It's really sad the way they've run their team, the way they've let go of quarterbacks, what they brought in, the mess they created, the horrible way he's played. And you have to acknowledge that, hey, Browns fans, your team let you down big time, and I feel bad for you.
Yep. R.I.P.
Let's not talk about Baker Mayfield. Tampa beat Washington 37-20. First of all, I got no panic for Washington. They got a rookie quarterback.
Yep.
I think, Jaden Daniels, rookie quarterback, 17 for 24, 184 yards, no turnovers, 16 carries, 88 yards rushing, 2 touchdown runs. It's an admirable first game for a rookie quarterback. I thought for any rookie quarterback, he probably played the best week one. And I saw something I liked. He had a touchdown when they were down 17 points. Didn't celebrate at all. It's clear the guy wants to win. He takes the opportunity really seriously. I like when a guy, has a touchdown in garbage time and is frustrated still and doesn't overreact and celebrate, but they're all business and want to keep going and find a way to win the football game. I respect that. That's all I got to say about Washington. Don't panic. It's week one.
Yep.
Baker Mayfield is awesome. He was 24 for 30 passing, 289 yards, 4 touchdown passes. That's the guy who should be QB1 in Cleveland, but they pushed him out the door. He had to really revive his career, go through a lot to make that happen. He got paid in Tampa. My question right now is, who's the best team in the NFC South? Is it the Saints or is it Tampa? It's either one right now. It's not Atlanta after one game. What do you make of all that? Do you have anything to say about Baker Mayfield?
I thought he played great. Those offensive weapons are so strong with Rachaad White, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, Jalen McMillan. He had his first catch for a 32-yard touchdown. Bucky Irving, the young cat from the University of Oregon, Cade Otton at tight end. We knew that the offense was going to be good, and they proved that. Again, it is against Washington, new coach, a lot of new players on that side of the football. Don't panic if you're Washington, but if you're the Buccaneers, you're feeling very, very good about this week. I'm still not in on the defense, but I believe, I can't remember who it is who had a great insight. The new offensive coordinator that they hired to replace, oh my goodness, who did they just replace? Dave Canales, who's now with the Panthers. Apparently Todd Bowles is willing to give up more and just let the offense go, and he's going to focus exclusively on the defense. And if this is what that's going to look like, really, really positive. I'm super excited for the offense. Chris Godwin looked great. He's had a little bit of a tough time staying healthy with his knee over the past couple of years, but he looked awesome. Mike Evans is just inevitable. Man, really excited for, honestly, both teams here. I think there's a lot of positives to take away.
The Vikings beat the Giants 28-6. And dude, it was shameful if you're a Giants fan. It was absolutely awful. First of all, Sam Darnold looked really good. Sam Darnold was 19 for 24 passing, 208 yards, 2 touchdowns, had an interception. But there's a reason Sam Darnold was a top 5 pick at one point. He is really talented, and with weapons around him, with a good offensive line, with a good coaching staff, good receivers, hey, Sam Darnold looked really good. And I don't know what the rest of the year looks like. It's one game against a terrible football team, the New York Giants, but they had a good running game in Minnesota. He looked awesome. I thought Sam Darnold did some really good stuff, and enough that it grabbed my attention to go, I don't know what he's going to have. I don't know if he's going to have a Jameis Winston year where you have a ton of interceptions and a ton of yards and a ton of touchdowns. I don't know. But Sam Darnold looked like you would expect week one against a bad football team. That's what you're supposed to do for Sam Darnold. I thought he did everything right. What say you?
I expected more from this Giants defense. We knew the offense was going to be abysmal, but it really just looked like they got ran over. And, is that a symptom of, I shouldn't say a symptom, is that the effect that, Sam Darnold with O'Connell and this newfound offense, you got a strong run game now with Aaron Jones? Was it that, or was it just this defense is out on Daniel Jones? why even put in the effort if we know our offense isn't going to put any points up? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
is this team already so defeated that by the time the season even started, the first game, everyone's just like, yeah, no, bro, I'm not doing it. It's really disheartening if you're a Giants fan that, yes, this year is going to be as bad as advertised. But also exciting for the Vikings to see Sam Darnold come in and play confident. It could have been really easy for him to, maybe throw closer to 50% completion percentage, maybe have 2 touchdowns, but also have 2 picks, kind of this roller coaster of Sam Darnold that we saw. But, for the most part, we saw a contained Sam Darnold. And you saw them use the run game with Aaron Jones, which was a massive upgrade from Alexander Madison. Man, yeah, again, real sad if you're the Giants. Some positive things to take away if you're the Vikings. Here's my hot take.
Yeah.
If I'm the Giants, I'm benching Daniel Jones, and I am calling the Broncos, and I'm asking about Jarrett Stidham immediately. And it's plug and play immediately. Now, what are the logistics of that? I don't know. But I'm not going to waste this year with Daniel Jones. I'm just not going to do it. Either I'm going to sit him and play a backup in tank, Tommy DeVito, it's your time, or I'm just like I don't know. Like I'm either going to try and find a way to win at least 9 games, sneak into the playoffs, or I'm just going to completely tank this team. I don't know how they want to do it, but I see nothing positive.
Yeah, if the Giants are trying to win, they got the wrong quarterback. Daniel Jones was 22 for 42 passing at 186 yards, 2 interceptions. One was a pick six.
And he took 5 sacks.
He looked worse somehow. I don't know how that's possible. You get Malik Neighbors.
It was the uniforms. Those uniforms made him look worse.
I gotta say,
so
those
bad.
uniforms with like gray pants would have been cool. It's the brown. It's that like
who signed off
skin
on
color
that?
pants that are awful.
Who signed off on that?
I don't know, man.
That's horrible.
I mean, I was trying to explain to my girlfriend Molly how like throwback jerseys work because I think the jersey part looked kind of cool. That jersey with like black pants or gray pants, like anthracite or something.
Yeah,
but the skin color pants had in it, Chief.
That wasn't a throwback. That was a throw it away. Get those stuff fuck out of here.
But no, man, I really gotta say, like the Giants looked worse somehow. It's really horrific. They look on schedule to have the number 1 pick. Like I thought Daniel Jones was. I had such low expectations, and he still somehow was worse than I thought. It's really bad. It's just like, oh my gosh, that's what you put out. That's the product week 1. It's horrifying. It's If you're a Giants fan, you got to feel horrified after 1 game. You're like, oh, I'm not watching anything this year. See you next year.
Yeah, seriously. If you bought Red Zone, just return it. Yeah, you don't need to see anything. Just fucking let it go.
Final game we'll talk about. Then I got a couple things I want to clean up and mention before we go.
Yep.
Houston beat Indy 29-27. It was a really fun football game, and the thing that stands out to me,
the most fun game to watch. Arguably the most fun.
And I think that's a matchup. Houston-Indy is going to be a rivalry for years and years to come. But what stood out to me, Anthony Richardson is, I'm not kidding. Like, look, I know Patrick Mahomes is incredible. Aaron Rodgers is really good. Like, when it comes to physical ability, Anthony Richardson is the most talented quarterback I've ever seen in my entire life. I've never seen someone who can do the stuff he can do with a football, with the ability running the football. He had a throw. It was like a 61-yard, I think it was 60 yards on the dot, 60-yard touchdown pass to Alec Pierce, where he's like stumbling backwards. He's not balanced at all. He doesn't set his feet. He just launches it.
Let's fly.
It's like, dude, look, it was an ugly game in some aspects for him. Anthony Richardson was 9 for 19 passing, 212 yards, 2 touchdowns, had an interception. He also missed a wide open touchdown pass that should have been easy. He ran for 56 yards, 6 carries and a touchdown. Like, the highs were really high, and there were some really imperfect moments. Like 9 for 19 is really weird for an NFL starting quarterback, right? It's just a weird game. 10 incompletions, less than 50%. But the highlights were like, I mean, the things the dude can do are unbelievable. He had 2 really long touchdowns, 54 yards and 60 yards. I have patience. Remember, he hasn't played a lot of games after college. He started like 17 games since leaving college, or some crazy low number like that. Or no, maybe it's like he started 17 games, even including his final year at Florida. Like, it's really, really low, the amount of snaps he's had. I just think you got to be patient, but it's so clear and obvious. Like, this dude he's going to figure it out. It's just a matter of time. And the talent is unbelievable. I don't mean to talk about just Anthony Richardson when CJ Stroud won and Houston won and Stroud was a better quarterback, when it comes to doing the things right. But just I can't say it enough, man. Like, I don't know when, but at some point this kid's going to figure it out and he's going to be unstoppable. It really seems very obvious to me. He's like the most gifted person I've ever seen play quarterback. It's crazy. I don't know what you have to say to that, but Anthony Richardson looked remarkable.
Yeah,
It's like, wow.
the spectacular is spectacular, and it looked like Florida cloned him. Actually, I'm not sure if you saw any of DJ Lagway.
I did, yeah.
You're
He
just
looked
like,
crazy
wait,
good
what?
too.
Did they just get another Anthony Richardson? Anyways, he looked like what we expected him to look right. Right, those highlights, those big plays, that wow, and you feel like everything's amazing. But then also, like, there's still a lot of those smaller things, the layups, that wide open AD Mitchell. He's gonna have to find a way to start hitting those if they want to beat somebody like the Texans. And then you start talking about the teams at the top of the league. You're gonna have to find a way to start taking care of the smaller things. And like you said, when that happens, we don't know. If that happens, we don't know. But man, are the highlights going to be highlights? I mean, I don't even know who Ashton Doolin is. All respect, but he caught that 54-yard bomb. Alec Pierce catches 2 of those bombs, 3 receptions for 125 yards is insane. So
Yeah.
incredibly special. I expect to see Michael Pittman Jr., AD Mitchell, and Josh Downs a little bit more involved as the year goes on. But yeah, how special that was. That was special. It was special to see.
It took Josh Allen a while to figure it out the NFL too, right? And I think you have to be patient with this kid, but he's going to figure it out and be really good. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
Now the other team on the other side of this, though, Houston, who took care of business, they won. They won a really difficult game, I thought. What really stood out to me, look, CJ Stroud was really, really good. Had a clean game, had 2 touchdowns and stuff on Diggs, who made an impact early, and you love to see that. But Joe Mixon had 30 carries for 159 yards and a touchdown. That's a way bigger workload than I thought they were going to give Joe Mixon. I thought it was going to be pretty even with him and Damian Pierce, and it wasn't. It was Joe Mixon's show in this football game. What'd you make of Houston winning, and do you have anything to say about the Houston Texans after one game?
I mean, if you can be that balanced, have CJ Stroud thrown for 234 and 2 tugs, and then you got Joe Mixon with 30 totes, I would like to see that come down. But let's be real, like, they were just letting him feast at the end of the game. It was no longer about, trying to save him or it was just let the hot hand keep going, punish these guys. And he looked young. I don't know what it was. Like, I feel like he didn't move that quick when he was with the Bengals. He was truly, running the ball. And, I criticized him. I said, hey, like, I don't think he's that pure of a runner of the football. But if I remember, in Cincinnati, they were utilizing him a lot in the screen game, and they didn't really run the ball super effectively. But I guess when you give him the football 30 times, you're going to see an absolute monster performance. Now, was that an indictment on the Colts defense? I'm not entirely sure, but goodness gracious, if he did not look fantastic, look like he found the fountain of youth, if you will. And yeah, like you called out, Stephon Diggs, 6 receptions, only 33 yards, but still had the 2 touchdowns. Nico Collins made some fantastic catches. One to the sideline. It was a big 3rd down. CJ Stroud hit him just right on the money, right on the spot. This team's for real. I think that they still had some things to clean up defensively, and I'm not sure whether that's just Anthony Richardson and the Colts being such a unicorn to try and stop. But I don't believe they turned the ball over, whether that was a fumble or whether that was an interception. The Houston Texans didn't. So you play clean football, you only win by 2. Maybe you want to see that score line a little bit bigger.
I think, though, part of that is I think the Colts are better than people realize. I really think the Colts they leave a lot on the table, right? Anthony Richardson leaves a lot of things you could clean up and do better, but that really speaks to, if the Colts don't make mistakes, they win this game. Like, really, like, if he hits AD Mitchell, he hits a couple other throws, this is a game the Colts win. And imagine if we look back and say, hey, the Colts won, and Houston played a really clean game, no turnovers, really efficient, really balanced, running the football really well. Like, I think it says more about actually Indy that you can play as good a game as you did for Houston, and still almost win. Like I really think the Colts are just better than people realize, and
Yeah.
I think it's I don't think they grabbed the attention because they didn't win, but certainly
Right.
people are talking about the highlights, and everyone's like, whoa, this Anthony Richardson kid can really play and really do some high level stuff.
Yeah. Still, the thing I was most impressed about was Joe Mixon, man. That was impressive. And I'm curious to see if that's a formula in the future, leaning that heavy on the run game, or if that is just a game call moment, Bobby Slowick just being like, hey, we're riding the hot hand.
Can we talk about college football? I've got four things. It'll be very brief because I don't have a lot to say here, but I'd like to hit on them if we can.
As long as we do not address the University of Oregon.
Well, now, no, I'm kidding. Number 3, Texas beat number 12 ranked or number 10 ranked Michigan 31-12. Texas looked really good, man. I don't know if you watched this game. It was people really hated on Davis Warren, the Michigan quarterback, and because I saw all the chatter on Twitter, I expected him to be awful. I was helping my mother-in-law buy a car early on Saturday morning, so I watched that game Saturday afternoon on recording, and I was like, Davis Warren's not awful. He's not dog shit like everyone made it seem like. He's just outmatched by a Texas team that's really, really good.
Yeah.
I think Texas is in the hunt for a national title. I think they're better than I even thought. They look really good at line of scrimmage. They have the ability on offense to call anything. They run the ball really well. They throw the ball really well. Their quarterback Quinn Ewers is outstanding. They can do whatever they want on offense because of the talent they have. I'm really excited to watch Texas play better football teams and how they're going to do in an SEC schedule, because I think they're a team that could beat a Georgia, could beat an Ohio State. And they play Georgia October 19th. And then we'll see what happens in the college football playoff. But Texas is a playoff team. And I think they're going to make noise and maybe even win the national title this year, like for real. They looked that good, in my opinion, on Saturday.
Yeah, and Texas isn't just a playoff team. They're a 4-team playoff team. They'll be down there in the semifinal, to me, with no doubt. The way that they played, they really just embarrassed Michigan. And we know that Michigan had more guys drafted last year than in any year in Michigan history. So they did lose a lot. We can't forget that. They lost Jim Harbaugh, an excellent head coach. So there was a lot of change that happened between personnel, not just players, but coaching staff wise. And I think Michigan got the benefit of the doubt of being the former national champions to get that ranking in the first place. Did they deserve to be ranked that high? Maybe, maybe not. We'll see how the rest of this year looks. But yeah, Texas looked fantastic. Michigan certainly looked just overmatched, is really all it was, just completely overmatched.
Yeah, I don't think it's fair to be so critical of Michigan when, again, you realize how many players they lost, how many coaches they lost.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, though, to go into the big house in front of 100,000 people,
that's hard,
and beat Michigan, and do it comfortably is still a state. I don't care who you are. That's not a Michigan of old that's awful. Like, Michigan is not what they were last year. They're not a national title contender, but they're not terrible either. And to win comfortably in a really tough environment like that is still a really big statement for Texas, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
Nebraska beat Colorado 28-10. Hopefully we're done talking about Colorado forever. They looked awful. They looked classless. Their Shitter Sanders is leaving the stadium before the game is over. I'm so sick of Deion Sanders. Like, the way he talks, the things they're doing that are, it's not just counterculture. It's like disrespectful to the I don't know how to put this properly, but it's like they have no respect for their opponents, it seems like, and yet are frankly kind of dog shit. It's really weird to me. I don't enjoy watching Colorado football anymore like I did for that brief stretch early last year. I'm just kind of worn thin of the whole shtick and the whole. I don't know what to make of it. I just don't like it anymore. I'm done with it. Do you have any response to that?
At some point, you got to get down to business. The Colorado team that was taken over was very bad. Let's be clear. Yeah. They played in a very tough Pac-12 last year, moved on to the Big 12 this year, but played a Big 10 team. They're still outmatched, and not just outmatched physically, but clearly they're outmatched emotionally, from the head coaching position to all the players on the field. I'd be rather embarrassed if my son is getting up on the podium and they're asking him questions and he's like, well, how many times did Raiola get touched? The one thing about quarterback you have to do is you just got to sit there and take it. no matter how big you win, no matter how big you lose, unfortunately, it sits on your shoulder. And I just don't think I could be an offensive lineman trying to protect Shedeur Sanders. I'd be like, this guy's just fucking blaming me the entire time. I think that's embarrassing. I think that's a joke. Some of the late hits, some of the chippy plays, I just, like you said, just kind of over it. Deion Sanders does have a very, you know, gravitas personality, and I think that the beauty of that is that it was great in hits, right? But now he has to get in front of the podium essentially on a daily basis, and the prophetic speaking and the lessons he tries to bring through, speaking, it just, it's too much. You look at some of the best coaches, they're keeping it short and tight. Saban, he's not saying too much. He's keeping it real with you. He's not trying to sugarcoat it. He's telling you what it is, what it isn't. Sark, same way. Ryan Day, same way. They're not trying to go on these diatribes of whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like I
Well,
said,
I'll say this,
just
man.
tired.
The Bible verses, I'm tired of. It's just you can't talk and be so loud and disrespectful to so many people, and then also in the same breath be quoting Bible verses like every chance you get. It's like, dude, pick a lane here. I can't. What do you want to do? What message are you trying to send me? Because I can't figure it out. I can't figure out what you want to be. And then I think humility is a really underrated quality. And if the attitude in Colorado is, hey, we're turning things around, it's taking time, and there was some humility coming out of there, I
Mm-hmm.
would still probably be on board. But it's if you're going to talk a ton of trash and be super, have no humility at all, and also suck ass, you can't. You can't. I'm sorry,
Can't,
like you can't
can't
talk
have
the way
both.
they've talked and not deliver, and they have not delivered now. For long enough that I'm like, shut the fuck up. Like, shut up forever. Like, you can't,
Yeah.
unless you're going to win, you can't talk the way you've talked and act the way you've acted. It's just not acceptable. You can't do that.
That, and let's kind of give some praise here to Nebraska. I thought Nebraska looked good. Dylan Raiola, I think, is going to be as advertised. The little mini Mahomes bullshit he's
Yeah.
got going on. I think they're going to be a
It's
good
weird, by the
team. And
way. It's weird how much he dresses like him and like the same accessories, like the haircut. Like he really does. Like he at some point he's got to be his own person. It's kind of interesting how much he's copying Patrick Mahomes. Like, dude, you got to wear the facial hair and the arm sleeve and the glasses and the hair. Like, come on, dude. I mean, if you're going to emulate anyone, Mahomes makes sense, but it is a little bit like there's going to be a point where it's like, Raiola, be your own person, please.
yeah, I have some access via some old career related channels to some Raiola information related to the whole Pat Mahomes cosplay thing, and it's very interesting.
Well, can I say?
I'll leave it that vague. It's
Well,
very interesting.
Well, can I say, well, yes or no? You don't have to answer, but I'm going to ask a question. It seems like Mahomes kind of goes with it. He kind of
Yeah.
supports it. He's like okay with it.
Yeah, imitation is the most sincere form of flattery, and when you got a guy out there who wants to have fun, um, trying to be and emulate you, like all these young kids, it used to be like Brady, be like Peyton, be like Breeze, and now this new generation is let's be like Lamar, let's be like Pat, and that's kind of cool to see because some of these kids are starting to get to that age where they're modeling their game after Pat, and they actually get to play like it, and of course you see Raiola just taking it to a whole other level.
But like I saw Mahomes tweet, good job, little cuz, or something like that, like or like little bro, or like he like supported Raiola. I was like, oh, it's interesting. Like he doesn't seem bothered by the
Yeah.
the copycat thing. It is interesting. Like at some point, like anyway.
Pat's an Adidas guy. Raiola's at an Adidas school. Maybe there's something there with looking towards the future of athletes.
Hmm.
NIL related, I should say. Because you saw Adidas last year sign Michael Penix and Roma Dunes, from the University of Washington in Adidas sponsored school. I would imagine that they are pursuing Dylan Raiola, and I'd imagine that Pat is probably a part of that to help say, like, hey, like, come on, why don't you sign that NIL deal with Adidas?
Matt Rule looks awesome. I really, I'm happy for the guy. I watched that game, and it's very clear the fan base and the support in Nebraska is outstanding. Like,
Nebraska's back.
dude, well, I don't think I realized this. I knew it was some crazy record, but it was like 389 games in a row they've sold out their stadium. And I don't know the math on that, but that's like 20, 30 years, some crazy amount. Like, how many games is that? I'm gonna look up calculator.
I don't even know.
How many seasons is that? I mean, right? Because
Just assume a 10-game season. That's over 30 years.
it's insane. divided by 12. That is over 30 years. That's 32 years if you play 12 games a year. I mean, and there have been some really bad years of Nebraska football. The fact they've sold out their stadium that many games in a row is insane.
Scott Frost years.
Dude, they love. I mean, that Nebraska football is the thing to do in Nebraska. And watching this, look, I'm sick of Colorado, but I enjoyed watching the Nebraska fan base and the atmosphere they've created. I don't know if it's every touchdown. Cool. It's definitely the first touchdown. They let off balloons and the sky fills with balloons in Nebraska. It's just it's an interesting culture there. It's like, wow, these people love football, and it's cool to see them win. Cool to see Matt Rule do well there. He's getting a lot of recruits in the transfer portal. I think Matt Rule is a good guy. He didn't work in Carolina, although a lot of people haven't worked in Carolina now.
Nobody's working in Carolina.
Yeah, like I just am happy to see the guy winning and doing well. I like him. He seems like a likable, good dude. Like, it just leaks out of him. He seems like a good, nice person, like a genuine dude. And I'm really rooting for him at Nebraska. And I like seeing Dylan Raiola do well as well. It's just a cool thing to see Nebraska football becoming.
Yes, I agree.
Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois. Did you enjoy that?
Yes, and I told everybody Notre Dame was dog shit. I told everybody that, who was it? Riley Leonard, the dude from Duke. I don't know why we all of a sudden love these Duke quarterbacks, or these quarterbacks that in general are underachieving, but for some reason we think that they're overachieving on a bad roster, and we're paying them a bunch of money to come in and try and plug and play in our teams. No. Horrible. I don't even have anything else to say. Like, Marcus Freeman, I think you're a great defensive coach. I think you're a great leader of men. Like, you have the guys believing and they have faith. That's going to run out if you don't win games, and that's going to run out if the offense looks bad for a second year in a row.
Yeah, I don't know how Notre Dame is still ranked. They're number 18 in the nation, and I'm like, how? I don't know.
Such a scam to me.
If they lose to Purdue in the third week, like they better be out of the top 25, because I don't think they even deserve to be in it now.
I think they deserve to be in it now. I think they're still one of the best 25 teams in the country, but the respect that they've gotten the past couple of years of, being this playoff team, and now this year being considered a playoff team, which they still very well could be. I think it's just a pure case again of overhype, the Notre Dame brand, this, big money that they paid for, Riley Leonard, and it's just what you get with Notre Dame.
DJ Lagway. So Graham Mertz got hurt. That put DJ Lagway on the field. I remember that in that week 1 game against Miami. I was like, oh, hey, the offense looks better with DJ Lagway. And he looked incredible. I mean, they played Samford in their second game of the year. It's not that great, but he looks like a incredibly talented quarterback, similar to the guy we mentioned earlier, Anthony Richardson. I want to read you the stat line. Look, again, this is against Samford Bulldogs. They're not a Division I double. They're they're nobody. But DJ Lagway was 18 for 25, had 456 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. He also ran for 16 yards, not much, but the ball jumps out of his hand like in a way that you can't believe. You're like, whoa, you're right. You said it earlier. Did they do it again? So DJ Lagway is a quarterback who I got a short list of quarterbacks on my radar for potential NFL quarterbacks. He's now immediately on that list because you're like, his skill set's unbelievable. The talent the kid has is far and above so many quarterbacks. When you look around college football, you're like, oh, this kid can play. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And if I'm him, I'm taking an NIL deal to go somewhere else because I ain't staying in Florida.
Put him at Georgia next year. Georgia, Ohio State, like DJ Lagway is too talented to be wasted on a bad roster.
Yeah, he needs to find somebody who can develop those raw skills. It's very clear he has.
Dude, for real, put him in Ohio State next year. I mean, that would be, I would love to see that. I'd love to watch that. It'd be just a blast.
It'd be crazy.
You asked me not to, but let's talk about Oregon. They squeaked by and barely beat Boise State 37-34. I know you watched the game. What'd you see?
Man, I couldn't really see straight. I was just... Actually, I'll tell you, it was a horrible viewing experience. I was at a bar with some friends. It's an Oregon bar in San Francisco, and one TV was like on pace, but then the TV from my section of the bar was, I shit you not, 22 seconds behind. So wow. They're all cheering and screaming. You're like, wait, what happened? Or they're like, oh, bro. It was a horrible viewing experience. Regardless, they just look soft. And I said this last week, when we were just catching up kind of offline, like they just look soft defensively. I mean, Now, this Ashton Jonty guy is no joke. He's a legitimate running back. But regardless, there's no excuse for being pushed around the way that they are on the offensive and defensive line. The trenches just look weak. I mean, Dylan Gabriel was still 18 to 21, which blows my mind because it certainly didn't feel like that. So he played a solid game, but it just scares me how these teams that shouldn't be hanging with Oregon are hanging with Oregon. The offense I thought looked better this week. It still didn't look fantastic, but I'm worried to play, a team that has an NIL bolstered front. Ohio State looks very scary to me right now. Even
Yeah.
Michigan State concerns me right now.
Ashton Jonty, 25 carries, 192 yards, and 3 touchdowns, coming off 6 touchdowns the week before. Was it 6 or 7 2 weeks ago? I don't
7,
remember.
I think. I want to
Yeah.
say it was 7. Here's the deal. They play Portland State this week. He might have 10 rushing touchdowns this week against there ain't nobody stopping that man at Portland State University.
Remind me to watch that. I am fast or keep track of that because yeah, you're right. If he has 3 touchdowns against Oregon, what's he going to do against a D1 AA program like Oregon at Portland State? I want to talk about Dylan Gabriel though, because again, 18 for 21, 243 yards, 2 touchdowns. Like that's a really clean, efficient game. Like it's clear the quarterback isn't the problem at Oregon. So you would say it's everything up front. They're just soft and not playing very physical, right?
Yeah, they're just not physical. They're not owning the line of scrimmage. It was better this week. I think offensively, I should say. I mean, Jordan James got over 100 yards rushing, which was great to see. Dylan Gabriel, I can't remember. I think he took 2 sacks, but one of them was more so his fault. But just that defensive line is really getting pushed around. And we had some guys come back, Jordan Birch, Jeffrey Bassa, at the linebacker positions who you expect. Matayo Uungale, DJ Uyungale's younger brother, who's a sophomore this year. Like, there's just too many guys returning defensively for things to look like that. And again, that's the most concerning part. If you just get ran over all day and you're going to ask the offense to score, 5,000 points a game, you're going to look like Ohio State did a couple years ago and just not be able to get across the finish line.
Is Oregon at risk of losing to Oregon State this weekend?
Yes. As far as I'm concerned, Oregon is at risk of losing every game right now because that defense just looks atrocious. I mean, if you can run the ball, I'm not sure what the defense is, per average right now. But if people are running the ball for 6 yards a carry, there's nothing you can do.
Theoretically, they got a light schedule. They
play the
play
ball out of your hand.
Oregon plays Ohio State. They play at Michigan. That's not easy, but Michigan's down, and they play Washington. Those are the 3 tough games. But I don't think they got a prayer right now against the way they're playing. They don't got a shot in hell against Ohio State.
No, and Michigan's always big up front. Maryland's good. I'd anticipate Washington probably playing some better football by the end of the season. Like, if they don't get things figured out, I'm very concerned.
Yeah.
But the good news for me is, to me, Oregon's a top 12 team, and they're number 12, if I can be very objective. But they're going to beat Ohio State by 30.
Before we look ahead to next week, let's talk about one more thing, and then we'll kind of talk about the games we're excited for next week. Jordan Love, it's officially now released. He injured his MCL. He's out 3 to 6 weeks. Is the Packers season over? I mean, that's a crushing blow to lose your starting quarterback. We talked about it. What injury is going to affect the season? That feels like it. They play the Colts, the Titans, the Vikings. If that was 3 weeks, that's the 3 games he'd miss. But then they play the Rams, the Cardinals, Houston, and then after the Jaguars and the Lions. So even if he does come back for the Jaguars game, they get 2 tough games by the time he comes back. And then if they don't beat the Colts, the Texans, I mean, they're going to really struggle in these games without a quarterback. Malik Willis is their backup. He's not very good, man. Are the Packers just screwed?
I don't think they're screwed. I think the back half of their schedule, there's still a few wins available to them. Is it going to be much tougher? Is, vying for your own division, much tougher now? Yeah, absolutely. But the good news is let's see, when's our first division game? Detroit. So you don't play Detroit until week 9, assuming he's back by then. Hopefully he's returned.
They played Minnesota week 4. Look, man, they're going to lose to the Colts. They're going to lose to Tennessee. They're going to lose to Minnesota. They're going to
You
lose to
think
the
so?
Rams. They're going to lose to Arizona. Yeah, I mean, like Malik
I don't
Willis
see
is just not
them
very good. I mean, that's the thing. Like, I don't care what you say. Like, they can't throw the football now. Like,
in
it's
the
just.
event that it's Ryan Tannehill.
I mean, okay, let's do the math then. You're playing the Vikings, who got a better team, probably better quarterback, Sam Darnold. They're playing the Rams, probably better team, better quarterback. Tennessee's a toss up. They're going to lose to the Colts. I mean, you're going to go 1-6 without Jordan Love, probably. You can
Here's
maybe
what,
beat
yeah.
Tennessee.
I think with all the credit people were giving them this year, maybe we thought they were going to be a little bit better. Again, my question this whole entire offseason was, can Jordan Love repeat? To me, just in that first game against Philly, he made things look hard, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
it's
Things didn't look,
expensive.
yeah, things didn't look easy for him. It didn't look like he knew where to go with the ball all the time. It didn't look like he was comfortable delivering the football. It seemed like everything was forced, and even those plays he was trying to make outside the pocket, like not everything has to be this off-platform kind of sidearm sling Aaron Rodgers-esque. Like it's okay to stand in there and just throw a strike. So hopefully that was just first game jitters. But yeah, now he has to sit out a couple games and try and refine some form. So I don't
Hmm.
think the season is over. I think that they can lean on the run game with Josh Jacobs, who started to really turn it on towards the end of the game. But yeah, certainly not over. I just think it gets tougher.
Yeah. In college football this coming weekend, LSU number 16 plays South Carolina. That's going to be really interesting to me. It's another chance to watch Garrett Nussmeier. I think is really good. And then the other game that stands out, there's not a lot of great games this weekend in college football. This is why I'm more of an NFL guy. I think NFL provides you better games week to week. But Florida plays Texas A&M, and it's a chance to watch DJ Lagway, a quarterback who we just talked about. We think is incredible, actually, like really, really talented. And not very good yet. He's a true freshman, but really, really talented against a real SEC opponent. It's going to be interesting. If you like
Yeah.
quarterback play, tune into Florida A&M because that's going to be a fun game in my opinion. And then in the NFL, the games that stand out to me. Oh, let's just go down the list.
Yeah,
Yeah,
can I say
please.
one thing real quick about Texas A&M?
Yeah.
Say what you want about Urban Meyer, bro. Go hire Urban Meyer. Go
Hmm.
turn that Texas A&M team around that has so much talent all the time. Just sell your soul. Do a deal with the devil. Go get Urban Meyer and win some football games. Consistently, they have way too much talent and way too much support from boosters and fans to keep putting out this lackluster product. Starting with Kevin Sumlin, like it's got to change. Anyways, to the NFL.
Yeah, on Thursday night, the Bills play at Miami. That's going to be a massive. We're going to learn a lot about the Bills this weekend on Thursday Night Football. What do you make of that game? What do you think is going to happen?
I think the Bills are exhausted. I think they flop, and I think Miami runs them out of the building.
Hmm. Browns Jaguars. I think the Jaguars beat the Browns, and the Browns again look awful on offense against a Jaguars defense that I think can play. What do you say?
That one's going to be interesting to me just because it appears that the Jaguars tend to shoot their own selves in the foot. And if you do that against a good defense, you're going to have a hard time closing the game out. I do think that the Jaguars still win just based off of what we've seen from the quarterback play. I think in my predictions, I certainly had the Browns winning this game, but right now it looks like the Jags.
Saints at Dallas. I'm not going to make a prediction. I don't know. I think it's going to be. I'm not that excited about the Cowboys. The Saints impressed me week one, but it's Carolina. It's kind of a good test for both of them to kind of get an idea what's real and what's fake.
Yeah.
Saints Cowboys. What do you make of that?
Yeah, same. And I think the same, but I also think that the Saints defense is going to look better than people thought.
Hmm.
And Dallas kind of got off week one playing the Browns defense, being that they didn't quite look like the Browns defense that we've known over the past couple of years. So I'm curious. I think they're going to get shocked and surprised a little bit at the physicality that they're going to have. But yeah, it'll be a good litmus test.
You know, in similar fashion, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers play at Detroit. I think the Lions win this game. They're a better team, but it's going to be a challenge for Tampa. And if Tampa's really good, they win. I mean, it's going to be another test for Tampa where we're going to see how good they are. Similar to what you talked about the last segment.
Yeah.
Um, does Tampa have a prayer against Detroit in Detroit?
They certainly do. And I think that with the Rams, you saw a depleted offensive line that kind of made things tough and losing a top wide receiver, and the
Hmm.
game was still close.
Mm.
And I think that the Lions were able to knock off some rust and start to churn things like you mentioned in that overtime drive. Really, I think refound their identity of that physicality punishing team. Um, yeah, I think that they certainly have a chance to go into Detroit and win. But Tampa Bay is probably going to have to score 30 plus points again if they want to win. And it's possible on this Lions defense.
You look at even the Lions last year. They didn't blow out anybody. I mean, I don't know that their style of football is conducive to beating anyone by like 30 points. Their biggest win was Carolina, 42-24. That's not that impressive. Carolina's awful, but all of their victories were marginal, if not not one score games, but two touchdowns. Like I don't think they have the system in place or the firepower to beat anyone by 30 points. Is that an accurate assessment of the Lions?
I would not say that that's an accurate assessment of the Lions. No, I think that they're certainly more than capable of absolutely blowing teams out. Um, I'm actually shocked that we haven't seen more of it. If you're saying that that was the schedule and the result of last year, they're more than capable of blowing teams out. I just don't think that Tampa Bay is going to get blown out by this team.
I think the Colts dominate the Packers. They got a much more capable quarterback. Anthony Richardson against Malik Willis is a mismatch. I think the Colts are also better than people realize. Even with Jordan Love, I think the Colts are going to win. I think the Colts easily beat the Packers. What say you?
I think it's going to be closer than we probably anticipate. Um, Again, I just feel like the Green Bay offense is. I take that back. Malik Willis, isn't it? If they had Ryan Tannehill and we heard it, today that he had started practice with him and he starts on Tuesday and Wednesday, then yeah, maybe there's a shot. But if Malik Willis is back there, I do think that the Colts probably, I wouldn't say win handily, because Green Bay, I think, has a solid defense and they might be able to muddy things up for Anthony Richardson. But I do think the Colts maybe win by, 7, maybe 10, score and a half.
I think the Jets beat Tennessee in Tennessee. They're both 0-1, but the Jets, look, they lost a game to the 49ers. I don't think you can punish them too harshly for that. I think the Jets are way better than Tennessee. What do you say?
Yeah, it's going to be a blowout. That defense is going to eat Will Levis alive.
49ers in Minnesota. I think 49ers are way better. They beat the Vikings, but I think it'll be interesting. Sam Darnold played last year in the 49ers organization. It'll be a good test for Sam Darnold. We saw him dominate a bad Giants defense. What does he do against a better defense and a more capable football team? Does Sam Darnold shrink and fall away? I think they lose either way, but Sam Darnold, how does he play is kind of the storyline to me.
I mean, if the Niners do what they did tonight and they keep the ball away from you while physically punishing your defense, it's not going to be close, unfortunately. I think that the top to bottom, the Minnesota Vikings offense is probably better with the weapons that they have between Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison. Wait, no, Jordan Addison's out. That's unfortunate.
Even so, you would say even with Jordan Addison, then they're better than the 49ers? I think that
No,
claim is
no, no, no,
crazy.
no. No, not better weapons than the
Oh, better than
Niners.
they were last year.
No, I'm saying that they're better than the Jets. So I'm thinking
I get what you're
I'm
saying.
saying comparatively,
Got it.
comparatively speaking, the Niners can go
Yeah.
in and do what they did. Despite Minnesota potentially having better weapons, I still think that they win.
Yeah.
They're
Okay.
just
Yeah. I thought
they're
you were
just
saying better than the
bullies.
49ers. I was like, oh.
No, 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 no.
Seattle Patriots is a huge moment where we're going to learn a lot about both teams. The Patriots won week one over Cincy, and their defense played really well. Was that a fluke? Like, I don't know what to make of that. We'll find out. How good is Seattle? We're going to learn a lot from these two teams week two. What do you say?
Seattle should win, but at this point, I am not entirely sure.
Great opportunity for a rookie quarterback to get his first win and really probably outshine a veteran quarterback here. Veterans may be the wrong word. I don't know what you categorize Daniel Jones, but Commanders Giants feels like a great opportunity for the Commanders to get their first win of the year and for Jaden Daniels to get his first NFL victory.
It's going to be a ugly 16-19 slugfest. That's what I see.
I think honestly it's more like 24-6 Commanders, honestly.
You think so?
I think Jaden Daniels is way, way more gifted than Daniel Jones is. And we got a quarterback that's way better and a quarterback who's as bad as Daniel Jones is. I have so little confidence in the Giants right now. And I've got a lot of confidence in Jaden Daniels. Despite losing week one against Tampa, he was competent. Like he played some good football.
while I agree, I'd like to think that the Giants defense is going to play at least a touch better and should present problems for Daniel Jones.
Hmm. I think the Chargers dominate Carolina in
Yeah.
Carolina.
Yep. I think J.K. Dobbins rushes for 8,927 yards.
I think the Ravens, I think the Ravens also dominate the Raiders in Baltimore.
Shouldn't be close. Yeah, it should be an ass whooping.
Cardinals Rams. I think the way the Rams can win is just run up the middle, man. Attack the gut and the front seven of that. The interior defensive line for the Cardinals is really weak.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can have a lot of success running the football if you're the LA Rams, even with your left tackle out. I think the Rams win, but I think the Cardinals maybe can challenge the Rams on offense and see what they can do. But I think the Rams win this game on Sunday.
Yeah, I'd like to think the Rams win this game, but I saw a Cardinals team jump out to a lead on a Bills team and just kind of not be able to hold it together. I think this game could go either way. The experience tells me that the Rams will probably pull it out, but I really do think this game could go either way.
I don't know who's playing quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers this weekend. I don't really care. I feel bad for Bo Nix. It's look, your second ever NFL start playing against this Steelers defense is really, really brutal. Feels like a bad spot for Bo Nix. What do you say?
Yeah, it's going to be a tough spot, and it's going to be a tough spot for any quarterback. There's no quarterback that sees the Steelers on their schedules and they're like, yes, we got an easy one. Every single time they wake up, they're like, fuck, I'm going to hurt tomorrow. My brain's going to hurt. They're going to disguise coverages. They're going to send blitzes. TJ Watt's going to be up in me all day. To me, this game also could go either way, just given the inexperience of Bo Nix. He's going to see a real NFL defense coming at him, and then obviously you've got the limiting factor on the Steelers side of Arthur Smith and some limited quarterbacks. So this might look a lot like I think the Giants and Commanders game is going to. It's low scoring, nitty gritty. Chris Boswell is probably going to have another great game.
The Bengals came out really flat week one. We don't know if T. Higgins is going to play. I think Kansas City dominates them. What do you say?
Yeah, I just, based off what we saw last week, I think Kansas City, who's going to be more rested as well, having that game on Thursday night, I think Kansas City wins this game. They just have a stronger identity, more continuity, a great defense. Obviously, you got Pat Mahomes. Joe Burrow has proven to be, Pat's boogeyman. But with what we saw this weekend, the Chiefs are going to win pretty handily.
It's almost a shame this game isn't later in the year because I think Joe Burrow is going to figure things out as the year goes on, but I don't think he's in a place right now to compete with a team like Kansas City.
I don't think so either. He kept it clean mostly. Yeah, just need to see whatever their identity is going to be. We need to see it. We need to see it ASAP.
Look, if on Sunday Night Football, if Chicago's going to beat Houston, they got to play really, really different than they did week one on offense. Like Caleb Williams has to take a massive step forward because if he plays like he did week one, Houston's going to win by like 40 points.
Yeah.
What do you say?
Yeah, Caleb Williams is going to need to speed up his play. Unfortunately, Houston Texans defense is not the defense you want to go against to have to try and ask that of yourself. But Caleb's going to need to be dynamic. He's going to need to be decisive when he wants to leave the pocket, and he's going to need to be decisive when he wants to let go of the football. If he can do those two things, it won't be a blowout. But I don't see them winning this game based off what I saw last week.
Monday night also feels really scary. It's the two bird teams, Falcons, Eagles, man. The Falcons were so unconvincing week one. And Philly, they won an ugly game. Hurts had two interceptions, but Philly looked really, really talented week one. And also in a weird environment in Sao Paulo, Brazil, on a slippery field at home where they're comfortable. And I just can't imagine a world where Atlanta can beat Philly in Philly. What do you say?
If the offense can be better for Atlanta, I see the game being close. If we remember, like Philly, like that game was close for the most part against the Packers, and the Packers did have some success moving the football. And if Kirk Cousins just had to, get baptized by fire to get back into playing football, maybe this game's a little bit closer because again, we know this Philly defense is not superb, but that offense is mean. So if the Falcons want to win, they're going to have to score probably 24 plus points.
Yeah. Cool, man. Anything else you want to say before we go?
Man, it just feels so great to have football back. again, drop notes in the comments. You guys tell us what you saw from your team's week one. Obviously, Zach and I, we're trying to watch everything as much as we can. We can't get to all of it. If there's stuff that we missed, stuff that you saw, let us know. Let's have a debate about why the Giants are so bad and why Stefanski is a horrible coach. I'm open to it.
I try to watch the games you don't watch though, so we can evenly spread it out and distribute where like we got someone watching every game at least is kind of the aim, hopefully with two people watching football every Sunday.
Yeah, that sounds like the perfect plan.
Well, man, we're 2 hours, 21 minutes. That's better. I was worried we were pushing 3 hours, so that was pretty great, dude. Great job today.
Yeah, this was fun. I've got some notes to myself for how I want to prep for this next week. I kind of looking at a full slate of games, so I'm excited to keep this rocking and bringing you guys some new content every week.
I think be kind to Nathan, guys. This is his first ever episode, really like covering a full NFL week. I thought I thought you did really well for like your first time ever doing it. Because it's a lot. I mean, covering the NFL week to week is a lot, and you've never, I don't think, done it before. So I think, round of applause. Good job, Nathan. Well done, man.
Thank you.
Well,
I'm gonna have
guys,
some brownies now.
Yeah, I love you. I appreciate you. I will see you. I will be recording Thursday night after Thursday Night Football. Nathan, you're welcome to join me if you want. But again, like he's an adult man with a job and a fiance and a lot going on. So I don't. You're always invited, guys. I love you. I appreciate you. And bam, we are done.